Welcome to the EST Hangout.
This is the EST Hangout, and today's guests are...
And a good Monday morning to you. Welcome to the EST Hangout, proudly presented by Sentinel Storage, Canada's storage experts. Round of clicks for Sentinel Storage.
Welcome aboard.
More than 2 decades of helping Canadians through their life transition. SentinelStorage.ca. They have a Black Friday deal that ends today. 75% off 12 weeks of 5x10 units, as well as 50% off all units. That ends today. SentinelStorage.ca. Live on TuneIn, iHeartRadio, EdmontonSportsTalk.com, on YouTube, also wherever you get your podcasts. Matt Iwanyk, Tom Gazzola, Murray McCourt. Ooh, I like that shirt there, Murray.
Oh, thank you.
It's a nice green
we
shirt.
talked about it last week. Golf hoodies. This is an Adidas golf hoodie.
It's a nice one.
It's a strong one. I like that. Welcome, boys. Welcome.
Well,
Good Monday morning.
Good morning. Good morning. Lots of good stuff to talk about today, but just really quickly on the golf stuff. As an owner GM of a golf course, and you go to the shows, and you go and you're telling us about getting the new product for the year in the clubhouse, I'm sure you walk away with a few samples.
Oh, yes, that happens. Absolutely. And not only that, well, there's two companies that kind of, like, I wouldn't say sponsor me, but I mean, they give me
Take care of me
very well. They want me wearing their stuff and whatnot. And then, but other companies, they do deals. So when you're at the show and buying it, there's the wholesale price, and then there's you buy it, you can get like 40% off of wholesale from some companies if
That's
you
awesome.
order to the show. So it's like Christmas time every year between the companies that give me stuff and then the companies that I do some personal use orders, and I get to revamp my closet pretty much every year for sure.
You had a sharp look this year for sure. The last couple of years. I'm very jealous of our good friend Dan Murphy from Sportsnet out in Vancouver. He's got a deal with Travis Matthew. And then on Saturday at Boston Pizza, we had awesome giveaways. Again, we gave away another jersey. Shout out to Tony and the crew and Curtis over at BP Westgate. Record player, and then like a Heritage Classic hoodie that we did trivia for one of our listeners or viewers that I can't remember who. Jonathan won it. Anyway, the Travis Matthew stuff is so expensive.
It
but
is.
it's really nice. And I was wearing a pullover the other day.
Yeah.
And the girls at BP were like looking at the golf shirt, and they're like, how much would this be? And I'm like, it could be like $150, some of them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Travis Matthew, when I was in Ottawa at that show, they were telling me they were looking for more athletes to sponsor and work with. And I said, so I connected them to my boy Stewie Skinner. And so I'm not 100% sure if that got finalized, but I connected Stewie with the guy that runs Travis Matthew in Canada.
Right.
And they were going to deck him out in all Travis Matthew gear for the summer and stuff like that. So
guys who don't need it the most get the most.
Yeah,
Like I did
works.
win a race at Remax this past summer.
Well, that
I'm
was
an
the
athlete.
rip-off at Remax.
So like if they're looking for some other
athletes, yeah.
I did win a golf tournament this past year too. So
wow, yes, with no shoulder, with no
that one.
only
yeah.
putting.
So if they're looking for anyone else, other athletes from here, feel free to pass them my way. I'll gladly.
The race, wasn't there some controversy in that race though?
It was, and I'll win it
the
next year.
rip-off at Remax.
I'll win it next year.
It was the rip-off
and they won't have any excuses. These guys all want to say it. I clearly won. Everyone that was there that's not part of EST says I won. Jerry Haraxi, who from Spirit of Edmonton, said I won.
He just wants to come back on the show.
People walking around. He's going to be on Thursday. People walking around. Like kids actually came up to me, legitimately. Dustin with a Y was with me. And they were like, hey, you're the guy that just won the race. Yeah, I was. So like it was just the people here don't like me.
Everyone loves you.
That's right. So they don't want me to feel good about myself.
You've got the thing of sauerkraut.
I still do.
Yeah,
I gladly do.
That thing's going nowhere. One other one that, just on a final note, I know we need to get to the Elks. Big news today, but Bird and Barley. Have you heard of? They're a local one.
Yeah, I've heard of them.
And they've been nice enough to hook me up. I think it's Travis over there gave me a bunch of hats, and I bought a vest from them. Really good stuff. It's nice to see it's expanding and changing, and you got the hoodie. A nice Adidas one, but anyway.
Yeah, it's it really. We talked about that a little bit last week. It's really evolving. How golf can be known as just being such a stuffy sport and so uptight, and man, you just gotta relax, let people dress how they want to dress, let them be themselves, and just lower that barrier of entry into the sport so people feel comfortable.
Yeah. But don't show up wearing a cutoff T-shirt, sweatpants,
Well,
and
yeah,
Birkenstocks.
Be respectful for sure.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but yeah, like we don't even really have a dress code at the ranch. Like when people say send emails or whatever, what's your dress code at the ranch? I was like, just use common sense. Like keep your clothes on.
Well, so but the
decent,
bit of a
and
dress code. You're not going with jeans.
You can wear jeans at the ranch. Absolutely.
You're cool with jeans at the ranch?
100%.
Well, there you go.
Like
Then yeah, you guys are just common sense.
Well, yeah, just relax. Just let people be who they want to be and make them feel comfortable. If you want to wear jeans when you play golf, wear jeans. It's good.
I just know some courses have
I
always been
know
very
some
big
courses
sticklers.
want. If your shorts are too short, they'll kick you off or make you buy pants. That's silly.
Tiger Woods changed the collar game to a degree.
He did.
Yes,
'Cause
absolutely.
everyone, I know some places, you got to wear the collar, and then Tiger had the collar
mock
shirts,
necks,
and now
yeah.
it's
I like that.
now you
That's a
can't
good
say
look.
anything because if Tiger could do it, so can I.
Well, exactly.
Tiger has the collar on the one
On that
in
one.
the studio that's with us
With
here.
the Team 1260 logo.
We do have Oilers to get to, but let's start with the Edmonton Elks, who have officially announced that Mark Kilam will be their new head coach. Kilam started as a strength and conditioning coach with the Stampeders in the Canadian Football League in 2005. Took over a special teams corner in 2010. Served as assistant head coach in 2019. He's 45. Was part of 3 Grey Cup teams in Calgary. As the Elks press release says, overseeing the CFL's most consistent special teams unit. He also played for the University of Alberta Golden Bears from 97 to 01. Was a team captain. Did not play with Jay, for anyone that is asking. Jay was, I think, the next year or 2 years
he came
after.
in the next season.
So there was no crossing between Kilam and Jay. He also coached at a high school level with both the Southern Alberta All-Star team in the Provincial Bowl and the Cochrane Cobras, who went undefeated, won 3 provincial high school championships in his 4 seasons as a defensive coach. But yeah, so now he was the new Edmonton Elks head coach. He was let go by the Stamps, and the Elks jump on him. And he will officially now be the head coach. Unveiled at 11:30. We'll bring you the press conference. We're going to interrupt the lock shop. We'll take you to the press conference at 11:30 right here on Edmonton Sports Talk. And then following that, it is the oil stream, mixed between the oil stream and some Elks conversation with that happening there. But thoughts, boys?
Geez, I love it. Mark Kilam was who I wanted when Chris Jones got hired. When the outpouring of love for him on social media by current players, former players, was something I don't recall ever seeing for any coach ever.
There's one coach that I was talking with JMO last Friday, and we were talking about it. There's only one coach I could recall players being so in love with, and it was Chris Jones.
Yeah, but some also hated him.
No, some
also
did.
hated him.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But there was the players that loved Chris Jones truly loved Chris Jones.
Fair.
He's the only other coach I've seen this type of love for.
Yeah. So for that reason, I think it's great. I'm really, really curious to see who his coordinators are going to be. I thought Monson was going to be the DC for sure, but you let me know that he's already signed on in Toronto, which I was unaware of.
Late last week, I think.
So I'm still hoping I don't know if he has a relationship with Maximic. I'd love to see Maximic be here to take over the offense. But I think it's great. And, everyone thought it was Campbell. I thought it was Campbell, but they clearly went through a process, and he blew them away in the interview with his plans and his personality and his energy and enthusiasm. And so that's great that they actually took who they thought was the best guy. He was in Calgary for 20 years. Like, could this guy be like the next Hugh Campbell for the team and be here long term? And like, he wasn't. It's not out of the realm of possibility that he could be here for a long term, and we can see a lot of success with him. I'm excited for it. And the other thing, a piece to it between him and the love he has from players, and everyone knows that he's a guy that players love. In free agency, I think this is really going to help us with him. And then Hervey, with his perspective from Hamilton, I think we're really set up well with the total change in the culture of the team to do really well in free agency, and hopefully turn this around pretty quickly.
I'm optimistic. I'm with you there, Murray. It's interesting because, last week we thought, okay, it's Rick Campbell, and he seemed like the obvious choice. I still think he's going to end up somewhere because he's a good coach in the CFL, and we know that. And he's kind of still a younger coach in the CFL, Rick Campbell, because he came in with the Red Blacks in 2014. Has a Grey Cup under his belt. I know things kind of went sideways a bit with BC. We talked about what happened this year with the quarterbacks after VA got hurt and Rourke came in. that aside, yeah, I'm curious to see how Mark Kilam shapes this roster and this team with Ed Hervey. It'll breathe new life into this organization, obviously, as well as Chris Morris and Ed coming back. I don't know. I think it's time in the CFL as well, and it always seems like there's like a 10-year rotation where the old guys kind of get shuffled out and the new guys come in. And well, Rick Campbell was one of those guys a decade ago, and this is kind of the forefront of the new wave. So him and Buck Pierce, it sounds like Buck Pierce will probably get a head coaching job somewhere soon, are part of that, and go for it. Take your opportunity and run with it. And the ties to Edmonton and the U of A, I think, are great. Obviously, that's important, especially for a guy that's coming from Calgary after so many years. That's a good reminder. And yeah, Rick brought it up earlier on the morning show that there's 2 former Golden Bears coaching the 2 biggest teams in this city, which is fantastic. I think it's great. And I think there's always optimism. I'm optimistic. It feels like the shroud of the past 5 years since 2019 when Ed got let go and Moss was the team was on the decline. It feels like that black cloud, that shroud is starting to lift, and away this team and franchise can go and get back into prosperity.
Yeah. Before I get into my thoughts fully,
yes, I want to hear your thoughts.
I can't wait for Tom Gazzola on the sidelines interviewing. Like that hair, Mark Kilam's hair on the sideline. Who's got better hair?
Yeah.
Who's got the better hair?
We'll have to do
I want
a
the
survey.
battle of the hair.
TSN will have to do a survey. Who has better hair, Gazzola or Kilam?
Yeah, well, I mean, I don't think Kate knows my name, so she'll just be like, "There's that guy," and Mark Kilam, head coach of the Edmonton Elks.
But the two beautiful hair just on the same screen, hopefully at some point, that would be great. You guys don't generally. Do you guys do coaches much, or is it usually players?
Well, it's usually players, but
'Cause it used to be
I had to
coaches a
get
little bit.
Jarius. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, I had to get Jarius when it was between Trey Ford and MBT. That was the Hamilton game. And Chris Edwards, Eddie, who you hear about Dusty talk. We actually had Eddie on and Rubes on the show, on the morning show a little while ago. Eddie's like, "Hey, Tom, we're going to need you to get Jarius Jackson." I'm like, "What if the Elks say no?" And Hernan was working sidelines at the time. And he goes, "This one's one where TSN's going to have to, kind of flex on the Elks." I was like, "Okay, whatever." Sure enough, Dahmer and Nanso were like, "Okay, you get Jarius." And he knew.
They would all know.
They knew. And so I asked a quick question, and then I'm like, "All right, are you going back to MBT or are you going to put Trey?" And he's like, "MBT's going back in." And he walked away. I talked to him after, and he's like, "I knew you had to do it." I really have a lot of time for Jarius. He's a good guy. I hope he lands on his feet. But there's a reluctance to go to Trey, as we knew. But yeah, sometimes there's a coach interview, and I don't mind it.
So give me the Mark Kilam, Tom Gazzola interview on TSN next year. I want that.
Yes.
I want that one.
Yeah.
I can't change how I feel about this and what I've said in the lead up. I'm cautiously optimistic. I am not, like, the amount of people slam dunk, all of that. I will not be the one that says slam dunk on this. I have my reservations of this hire, and we'll wait and see on it.
What are your reservations?
So it's the biggest reservation that I have, and I've talked about this for the last few weeks, so this isn't something today trying to be doom and gloom mad or anything like that. I'm always skeptical of the longtime assistant that has interviewed for head coaching jobs for a number of years and has never gotten it, and then finally gets his opportunity. Because I think more often than not, we've seen it not work. And we saw it in this very city with Richie Hall. Richie Hall was one of those guys that was highly touted. He'd interviewed for a number of years, never got the job. Finally, Edmonton gave him the shot, and it didn't go well. It was a disaster. Former defensive coordinator of, at the time, the Edmonton Elks, or Eskimos, Greg Marshall. Danny Machocha got the job here in 05 when Tommy Hansen left. He had been rumored for a number of jobs. He got the job in Saskatchewan finally. I can't remember what year that was. He lasted 8 games, I think. He got fired during his first season. It was just that big of a disaster. I am concerned about that guy who's interviewed a number of places and has never gotten it. Now, the one that I've even thrown out there, though, was Bob Dice was one of those as well.
Right.
He went to Ottawa. I was skeptical of it in Ottawa. Got to the playoffs this year. So we'll see. Like, it's trending in the right direction for that one. Maybe Mark Kilam's more of the Bob Dice than the Richie Hall, Greg Marshalls. But I'm always just skeptical of the longtime coach who's interviewed many years for the job, is always in the conversation for jobs, but never gets it. And now that you got it, it's okay, well, can you do the job? Like, Why did you not get it so many years in a row? Why haven't you got in the last 7 years that you've been interviewing for these jobs? And then the other thing I'll say, it's great to see all these players love Mark Kilam, but and that's one positive. But it's also he was for the most part special teams coordinator, so you're not
Assistant
being bad
head coach.
Towards the end, he became the assistant head coach, but he doesn't have to be like. I don't know the dynamic inside of the Calgary Stampeders locker room. I don't know if there was a good cop, bad cop type thing. Like, did he ever have to make as like at times we saw him on the sidelines lay into some of those special teams players when they did things wrong. So I'm not saying he never had to be tough on his players, but was he able to be the reprieve for the players while John Huffnagel or Dave Dickinson had to be the bad cop type thing? Was that the dynamic they had set up there? So yeah, naturally the players would love him because Huff was there as this intimidating figure type thing, and they need someone to, as the organization that the players will like. So is he going to be able to be the guy? Is he going to be able to be the singular guy? Now, that said, though, you can't dispute, though, that all these players did just love him. And maybe they want to play for him. Maybe they'll play hard for him. But maybe that just is who he is as a coach. So I have my reservations, but I am cautiously optimistic. I will trust that, in the interview process, they were blown away that they loved him so much that they had to give him the job, that he was the runner. It seemed like, when was it, Friday or Saturday? I think Farhan had Mark Kilam gets his choice, basically. BC wanted him that much, too. So now it was like two teams this time wanted to give him a job.
And he chose Edmonton over BC.
He chose Edmonton. So that's where I'm excited about that. I'm excited about the roots that he brings in. So that's, I need to see the staff now around him.
Yes, that's important.
If it's Jordan Maksimic and JC Sherritt, I'm a little worried because it's a lot of, Actually, I can't say that. I can't say that. Actually, I was going to say like young, but Maksimic has been an OC for a few years, so I'd be actually more fine with that.
Yeah.
It's just a lot of inexperience in these roles,
right?
And I would like to see some sort of veteran around them and stuff. But Maksimic has been an OC for a few years, so I guess I'd be a little bit okay with that. But you're only going to be as good as your coordinators.
And
right?
Sherritt retired like 6-7 years ago. Like that's a decent
jump straight into coaching.
Yeah, that's a decent runway to put yourself in a good spot to become a defensive coordinator, don't you think?
Sorry, I was just reading it.
You just don't like listening to me. I know how it is.
But quick to be a defensive coordinator. He was a DC in the States for a few years at Cal Poly. But Jason Moss was an OC for a singular year. He was a QB coach in Toronto for a few years, and then got an OC for 1 year, and then became a head coach.
Yeah.
So you can have that quick rise.
Yeah.
Well, JC lived and breathed this organization as a player, and it blew my mind. As much as passionate as he was about the Eskimos and the Eskimo way, it blew my mind that he joined the Calgary Stampeders staff. It blew my mind that he's gone to Saskatchewan because he bled green and gold when he was here as a player, and he's such a good guy, and he'll bring that passion and energy here if he is the guy, and I would love to see him part of the staff. Is he ready to be the DC? I don't know, but Kilam's also a defensive guy as well. Sure. I mean, he's a special teams guy, but that's
more where his expertise is.
Yeah.
Murray, Matty, do you have? I have something really quick. Go ahead.
I was going to say, like, to me, between Kilam and Rick Campbell, I think Rick Campbell was low risk, but also lower reward. Like he's fine. Like
he's a CFL head coach.
Mark Kilam, I think, has higher risk than Rick Campbell, but I also think has a higher reward.
Okay.
If this pans out, he's going to be a great coach, and as you've already for a longer time. Yeah. I think it's one of those situations where I think the upside to Mark Kilam is greater than Rick Campbell, but you also know what Rick Campbell is, so I think and you don't know fully what Mark Kilam is as a head coach, that the downside could be larger with Mark Kilam than with Rick Campbell.
What were you going to say? Because I got a question for you guys.
The JC Sherritt thing, and I'll even mix Calvin McCarty in there too, because like Sherritt and McCarty took off to take jobs, I think both with Calgary briefly. And then I think Calvin went to Hamilton as well, if I'm not mistaken, in a role. But both, Calvin lived here. I don't know if he still does. Anyway, those were two long-term Eskimos that knew the Eskimo way, were proud of it, won a championship here. I think that them taking off and going to the Stampeders, and I'm pretty sure Calvin did too. I think
he went to the Stamps.
Yeah.
Well, he played.
He played, yeah. I think that was indicative of
was Brock
management at the time.
It was Brock Sunderland.
Yes. And I've had somebody tell me recently, like, it was a mess under him.
Yeah.
That's where it really started to unravel.
Ditched the way of the green and gold.
Yeah, there were a lot of expletives that were used when they were describing that time. And I was like, okay, good to know. Let's put that one in my back pocket for later. And I think, you talk about the Eskimo way, and there's two guys that were long-term Eskimos that took off to go to the Stamps. Now, opportunity always helps. And, you can shed your colors. But you talk about the pride that JC had, and I'm pretty sure Calvin, same thing, because he lived here. Played slow pitch in St. Albert, for crying out loud.
Well, Calvin should have still been a member of the team. He still could play.
Yeah.
And he was such a long-standing player, and he was, like, to the end, he was a serviceable fullback. He always did his job.
Yeah.
But there was no connection here anymore.
Yeah.
The guys that were running it, Elizondo to Sunderland to Chris Presson to a degree, there just wasn't that connection for them anymore. So that as much as they played here and this was what they loved, it wasn't their team almost for a few years, and that's where it started, as Tom just pointed out. So, like when Chris Jones comes back, there's a little bit of that transition back because he had been here and won a Grey Cup, but it just wasn't the same.
That too.
Yeah,
it just wasn't the same. And then now it's with this whole hire, like Mark Kilam doesn't have a connection to the Double E, but he does to the community. Yeah, and he does to the green and gold.
Where's he from?
Lethbridge.
He's from Lethbridge. Okay. Yeah. So here's my question for you guys. Now, there's only so many head coaching jobs in the CFL. And when we were talking a week ago, we thought that the head coach was going to be Campbell, but we wanted Mark Kilam to be part of the staff as a special teams coordinator, which and so either that or replace Chris Morris with the Golden Bears, which, by the way, he got offered the job of that Chris Morris had when Chris Morris got it.
Yes.
Jay was all over that.
Yeah,
Shout out
that
to
was
Jay
interesting,
for saying that Kilam was Jay broke that news.
Yeah.
Like, Jay deserves a lot of credit for breaking that news. Jay's dialed in when it comes to Alberta football.
Yeah, Jay's the Edmonton football insider at the moment. But you're talking about with the U of A job, the first time when Chris Jones or Morris got the job, Mark Kilam was
offered it before him. But here's my question to you guys. We thought that it was going to be the reverse. We wanted Kilam on the staff with Rick Campbell as a head coach. Well, now that Mark Kilam is the head coach, is it out of the realm of possibility that, because Rick Campbell was a DC before he was a head coach, is it out of the realm of possibility that Rick Campbell is the DC under Kilam?
The reason I would say yes is you just generally don't see a coach who's been this long of a head coach in any sport go back to being a coordinator or being an assistant coach. There was a coach recently in the NHL that did it. Was Lindy Ruff an assistant somewhere?
Maybe, but like Davis Payne, Mike Yeo.
Well, but there was Mike Yeo's one.
There's been a bunch that have gone back to being assistants.
But like that, he's been around for 10 years. He's won Grey Cups or a Grey Cup, been to Grey Cups. It just seems out of the, like something that generally we don't see from these guys. It's almost like checking the ego at the door type thing. And would he want that? But maybe is he at a point where he doesn't want to deal with all the stress? He just wants to deal with that. The other side to Rick Campbell, which I think Dusty brought up at the end of their show, which I think is dead on. If you're Rick Campbell, you're got no job for this year. Like, you're not going to be head coach. But you could sit there and be the coach that team fires to hire you. Like, I don't know what team that would be next year. Let's do a hypothetical. Let's say Hamilton starts off 0-6. Let's say Calgary starts off weak or something, and maybe they go, we need to make an in-season coaching change. Boom, you're gone. Rick Campbell, you're in. This is the first time in a few years, I think, where there's actually a candidate that's just sitting out there that teams can make a move mid-season.
Good point.
And bring in an established head coach.
Right. The devil's advocate to that is if he doesn't get a head coaching job, there's no guarantee that that's going to happen. So sitting out and doing nothing, what does that do for you moving forward in the future? If you're the DC in Edmonton and you're part of a big turnaround in this organization, that sets you up for next year's offseason hires. Like, look what Rick Campbell came in, did this great work with Edmonton. Edmonton's a playoff team and their defense was outstanding under him. we're going to hire Rick Campbell as our head coach.
And Bronco Nick does point out Jones went to Hamilton to be a DC this year.
Yeah.
And he
That's
was,
a good point.
well, no, he wasn't officially DC because if he was officially DC or something, he would have had to get paid. And he was getting paid by Edmonton. And so he
was
didn't
a
do that, which they got to
consultant or
find a way to get
whatever,
the rule around. But he went to Toronto, the same thing
That's
before
right.
he came here to Edmonton.
Yeah.
He went to Toronto.
Yeah.
And Rick Campbell, has he made enough money that he doesn't need to work? He maybe he needs a paycheck. I don't know.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe. I mean, I think we're going to see Rick Campbell somewhere pop up in the league soon. The 10th team was another discussion that I had with someone. He's Jason Moss and I were talking, and he's like, "Yeah, we got to get that team in Quebec City." So that's going to be another set of coaching jobs and all
When's
that.
that going to happen?
I think they want to get that going soon.
Well, a 10th team is
Bring it on.
required.
It changes
for sure.
a lot.
Yeah.
I think the CFL, the plan is then it would go down to a single bye week for each team as opposed to 3 bye weeks right now. So the season would end sooner.
Good.
It would end, I guess, it would end 2 weeks sooner or 3 weeks sooner. So Grey Cup would actually move to like the beginning of November.
Mosser was saying those bye weeks were stupid, and then the weeks with 4 days rest or 4 days between games were awful as well.
Yeah.
Can't have that.
But that's what changed. It does change that. It balance. You got the 2 5s. I'm just intrigued how they would deal with the schedule, because once you're at 10 teams, if you play everyone twice, that's 18 games. You don't play anyone a third or a fourth time.
Right.
So does Edmonton only play Calgary on the Labor Day and the Labor Day rematch? Like there's
Bring it
there's
on,
not more.
man.
Like is that it? Like,
Good.
that's all you're gonna get? We just know middle of the schedule. Boom, Edmonton,
there
Calgary,
it
is.
which is actually closer to the end.
I
And I'm
like
good with
that.
I'd love it.
But okay, I'll say that. Then get rid of divisions at that point. If you're literally playing everyone twice.
I like divisions, and
but
I've
there's
listened
no
to
point
Reed
at that
and
point now.
I don't know what it, I
because we're
like the
playing
structure. I don't know.
everyone the exact same amount of games.
Good point.
So you might as well just go 1 through 6 with all wild card. Top 2 teams get the bye.
Yeah,
change the trophies. I don't know what the names of the trophies are, but
No, just
find
keep the
2 grades.
divisions.
Have the Doug Flutie Trophy and the Warren Moon Trophy. That's the winner of one game. That's the winner of the other, and then they go on to play in the Grey Cup, because there's literally then no reason for divisions.
Yeah, you're right. Outside of history and all that kind of stuff, but same thing though. Like, because if you do it, the
Enough
way the
of your
crossover
logic.
works, it's basically the same thing, anyways.
Yeah.
If you have divisions and you don't have divisions, so long as you keep the crossover, the 4th best team in one division
But-
makes it over the 2nd best of the other.
It changes who plays home. And
That's
things
right.
Like that.
I just had that thought crop up in my mind as I'm talking. Like, well, not the same.
If there's one team that's a little bit better, instead they have to go play a home game in Montreal, even though they're better, where it should be at home. The only thing where I will compromise on this is I will agree to division winners first. They get the bye, then it's full wild card. I don't care where anyone else goes after that.
Ooh, that's I kind of like that.
So if you win your division,
Yeah.
you get the bye. You're home the next week.
Yeah.
It's only for the 2 division winners, but then the rest is wild cards.
And you could still have East and West division.
You could have all of a sudden Saskatchewan going to Winnipeg and Toronto coming out to BC
yeah.
because Calgary won the division and Montreal won the division.
Yeah.
And that's
fun.
how it goes. And everyone else screw off, and it goes. And each year we rotate. I don't know how they. Oh no, whoever's the best division winner gets the lower or whatever. Like there's ways to do.
There's
that.
ways to do it.
But I could compromise if you want to keep divisions.
I like
do that
divisions.
one, but then the rest. Also, Reed Wilkins does say in the nasty chat, Matt, I could help make the schedule if they went to 10 teams.
Did he get one with AI? Did he do it?
When there's equal amount of teams, it's easier.
Yeah.
So I do trust
There
Reed
we
on
go.
that one. He was using Chat GPT to build the
He was
schedule. and
yelling.
It was. I was yelling at
You
him.
were yelling too.
Reed had to, like a full week of trying to get Chat GPT to build him a CFL schedule, and it really struggled with it.
Yeah.
So the other part of the divisions, though, is the rivalry stuff. I mean, the West semifinal being, Calgary, Edmonton, or Winnipeg, Saskatchewan is a lot,
Juicier.
juicier
I like
than
that.
if it's BC against Hamilton.
Sure, but with 10 teams, you could build a little bit more rivalries with everyone else.
Sure,
But also,
yeah.
then you don't have the rivalries in the regular season, really. Like that's
If
why
it's only
and
two
that's,
games,
still
it
do.
you
will-
have the
You
Calgary
still
one, but it's
do.
only 2 games. But you
Yeah,
get the
so
exact
what?
same amount of games against Hamilton.
Yeah,
Okay,
that's fair.
That's where I go. Like
In the NHL, there's in the divisions the way they work right now. Sometimes the Oilers play Calgary 3 times a year,
which
You
isn't
tell-
enough.
It's not enough,
Yeah, I
but
agree.
it's still a rivalry. We still
It
go. These are
is.
big games.
But we also sit there when there are years where we go, the rivalry is not as big as it has been. We all want 4 in that one. Why do we want more Calgary Edmonton games?
We do, but they don't. They
Just
don't have
because
that.
of the rivalry.
Because I want more Edmonton Calgary. I want more of Calgary Edmonton Saskatchewan.
Yeah.
Like those are the two bigger ones for me. And that's where it's like, can you stick with like an even schedule across the board, or do you switch it up?
can't,
The
though.
CFL did it for 1 year, I think. This year they got rid of it again. Where like Edmonton 2 years ago, I think they only played Montreal out or in Montreal. They didn't go to Montreal 2 years ago.
Right.
Do you do that where you see everyone at least once?
You have to.
But you rotate but 1 year it's home, 1 year
it's
you're on the
away,
road.
Yeah.
Like, I don't need another Ticats game.
Well, but that
You
like
know?
every 2 years the Ticats come here.
Yeah. I could buy into that too.
And you get your 2 Eastern games here. You go, or I guess it would rotate how you do it because there's 5, 3 here, 2 there, whatever it is. And then that just adds 5 more divisional games.
Now we're
you could have.
talking.
Yeah.
There we go. We're figuring it out. We're talking it out.
Yeah, I like that because then it keeps
That's why I
the
initially asked.
rivalries.
You have the 2 against every team.
I have no problem with that, to be honest with you. But if you want to put emphasis on the division rivalries and the traditional rivalries, then do that. I said, when Montreal and the Elks play each other, I'm like, yeah, okay, whatever.
Right.
When
big
the
in the
Ticats,
2000s.
I have no interest in the Ticats, and
Right. Where Toronto sure does have interest in the Ticats.
hell yeah, they do.
They
Ottawa
want more
does, yeah.
Ticats and less BC.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I
Absolutely.
think that's where I agree. That's where it needs to go.
Yeah.
Yeah, you could play everyone once in the other division. You could then play everyone in your division 3 times, and one team gets 4 times.
Sure.
I think it's how it would work.
4 times
But
against the
then
Stamps. Yes, please.
one team would have to get 1 extra game against the other division each year. So that would have to rotate. I think the math would have to work.
All right, let's go chat
That's
GPT.
what-
17
Build us a
games
schedule.
too would be okay.
I still stand by, though, even if you do that,
No, 17 games is not okay.
you
'cause
get
there's
rid of
not
the
equal home and
divisions.
away.
Like,
Yeah.
I still want my 1 division winner, and then I want best teams.
Okay,
Hey,
personally.
in the NHL, I would love it to be back to 1-16, 1 versus 16, 2 versus 15. You're guaranteed to have the.
A 1-8
it takes
1-8?
away the rivalries. It costs more money. I get all that, but you get the 2 best teams in the Stanley Cup, and you have some neat matchups that are like, ooh, the Rangers and Colorado in the second round. I mean, that's fun, right? Like,
You want true 116,
Oh,
which we've never seen.
well, years and years and years ago, you did, didn't you?
I don't know.
No, it'd
Like
only be 1 through 8, 1 through 8
through
for
8?
conferences.
Because
But what was it like when it was Smythe, Adams, Patrick?
I feel like it was
and
1 versus
Wa-
16 way back when I was a kid.
I don't think so because that's how the Oilers won their division banners.
Patrick.
It was like when they won a Smythe division, they got through the Smythe side of the playoffs.
Yeah.
It wasn't regular season Smythe winning; they won it through the playoffs.
But you go back to that time when Calgary and Edmonton were arguably maybe even the 2 best teams in the league, and they were playing in the second round of the playoffs. The Stanley Cup was in the second round of the playoffs. That was terrible. I didn't like, so that's why I would like to see it get changed.
I would love 1 through 16.
Oh, so fun. So fun.
And quite frankly, it just also it might lead to, the Tampa Bay Lightning having to take on the Colorado Avalanche in round 1. Make the East do a little bit more travel through the playoffs.
Well,
right now, the
it's
East
okay.
teams get a little bit of an easier time when it
Did
comes to
they
travel
ever?
schedule as opposed to the West teams
Yeah.
when they're dealing with the playoffs. So they're they always get the tiny edge going into the Stanley Cup playoffs or finals. That would eliminate it. It would just be 1 through 16. And doesn't matter. 1-16 might be the worst. It might be Edmonton, Florida for the very first round, and there's a crap load of
Yeah.
travel. I like 1 through 16.
Those unique matchups make it so fun to me. But I don't know.
Smythe, Patrick, Norris, and Adams divisions. That's what they
Yeah,
were
that's
until
what they were,
1993.
Avery Lewis McDougall says Oilers played Montreal in 1981. They swept the Habs. So,
Yes, Avery.
they were 1 versus 16 was from 1979 through 81. So
Only
like
a
3
couple years. Okay, I knew it happened, but I was very young
That's
at
when they
that
had
time.
21 teams, right?
21 teams.
Yeah.
And how about that though? When it was 21 teams, 16 teams made the playoffs.
Right.
Now there's 32 teams and 16 teams
I like that.
makes the playoffs.
Makes
So
it
the regular
special to
season
make
is
the
pretty
playoffs.
meaningful
Exactly.
They're
for
gonna add.
sure. But I
hope they
think
don't.
They'll
I
do the
think they
in-season.
should.
I hate
Well, not
that.
the in-season. They're going to do the NBA style play-in. You watch.
puke.
Well,
A couple
they
of
should
extra
do
more
something.
playoff gates. They'll do it.
Yeah.
They'll go for it.
And they will because they do want some denarios.
But it's I'm with half the teams make the playoffs, half the team don't. Regular season matters.
It matters a lot. Maybe too much.
College football, I've gone regular season doesn't matter to a degree, like for certain teams. Like I just watched this weekend Ohio State get upset by Michigan. And as I'm watching this, and I'm also thinking like, this doesn't hurt Ohio State that much. Now, they're not going to win the Big Ten. They're not going to get the bye for the first round of the playoffs. That's where they get hurt. But they're going to the playoffs. This isn't knocking them out. When we're at a 4-team playoff, we would have been like, Michigan just knocked out Ohio State from the playoffs. They're not going to the playoffs.
Exactly.
And if it was an 8-team, we'd be sitting there going, Ohio State's on the bubble, and they might not make it. I wish they went to 8 over 12. Just side thing.
Well,
I think a 12 was too big of a jump. They should have went to an 18 playoff this year.
Either way, when it was 4, it was that 5th place team, the 6th place team were always whining, pouting, complaining. If you went to 8, the 9th and 10th teams would always be the ones. Now it's the 13th and 14th place teams that are like, come on, how did we not get in this?
I would like to air one grievance about college football this season, especially this past weekend. Good point, Murray, as well, though. The running to the field. We talked about it last week. That's like, stop it. And then the other thing is the planting the flag on the other team.
The amount of brawls this weekend.
My God.
I love watching it, but it's stupid.
Yes.
Stop being stupid.
Let just go win. Go win.
Yeah.
Michigan, Ohio State, North Carolina.
I love the flag
North
being
Carolina
tossed away.
State.
Yeah.
I think it happened with Arizona State.
Forks up.
There was like 3 or 4 of them that had happened this weekend.
So
it
dumb.
was wild.
It's so dumb.
So what side are you on, though?
Don't do it.
Don't plant the flag.
No.
Or
And don't rush the field.
But if they do plant the flag, though,
go fight them.
you should go fight them.
100%.
See, and I'm flip. Go plant that flag.
Yeah,
You
because
don't want the other team planting it in your flag. Go win.
Well,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, football
but
game.
I like go fight them. But
I see both sides to
Yeah.
it. Because it's disrespectful. But they won. They're celebrating. They're happy.
Yeah.
But do they need to celebrate in a disrespectful way? Because the planting the flag is just brutal. So on the brawl front, here's a question for you guys. That hit, I'll tell you, I want to hear your guys' opinion. I'll tell you my opinion first. That hit that guy threw on Trevor Lawrence.
oh yeah,
And that guy came in afterwards and clobbered the guy that hit him, and other guys came in. I'm telling you what, if my teammate threw a hit like that, I'm not rushing in there to defend that guy.
no,
He deserves to get clobbered and knocked around a little bit. I wouldn't let him get killed,
but he's got to answer.
He's got to answer the bell. If you
something
are going to
stupid.
hit someone like that, you got to answer the bell, and you got to take what's coming to you. I'm not jumping in there because guys jumped in there to pull guys off him right away. I would have let him take a few shots before I would have, because that was garbage hit.
That was a garbage.
I don't
hit.
care if he's a teammate or not. Your teammates, if they do something that stupid, they got to answer for their own actions. That's my thought. What do you guys think?
Well, Trevor, scary to see Trevor right away. You saw the arms and like immediate concussion. Obviously, vicious hit. I understand wanting to allow him to have to deal with the consequences of a dangerous and completely over the line hit. And then, but like you get a few licks in, and then you go in and try to break it up.
Yeah, but he let him. He got hit a few times.
He
for
did
sure.
that. That's like in hockey. Your guy does something stupid. It's like, well, man, you're gonna get your ass beat. I'll let you fight for yourself, and then if it gets bad, then you jump in.
Yeah.
I think.
What do you think?
Well,
that was a nasty hit.
You don't see that too often in football where players come to the defense of their team in that way. Like full brawl that gets led to. That I don't recall seeing a lot in football. So I like that from the Jaguars' perspective.
Absolutely.
Going to go defend your teammate like you start keeping and going all out there.
Yeah.
I never thought of it if it was somebody just broke something.
Somebody broke something.
That didn't sound good. I don't even know what we would have. That would be glass or something that they could
It
break
sounded
right
like a
now.
glass.
So I never thought it like if it was my teammate. I guess the one thing is you might not see in the moment what happened.
Fair.
And that you just see the other team now just starting to jump on your teammate.
Fair.
And you'll go, oh, no. You don't do that to my teammate. And you come rushing in because the play's happening and you're focused on other things. But if you know what's happening, maybe like the slower rush to defend him. As like eventually you do have to defend your teammate. Eventually just the standard, like break it up, get in there. But maybe, like let a few licks happen and then get in there. Like if you're the defensive back that's at the other end, maybe you're not sprinting in.
Yeah.
You're having a nice jog in type thing, and then when you get there, you jump in. But it's not like you're that full bullpen
Yeah, and I'm
player
not
that's like
coming in.
rushing in for the brawl because you just want to do something. I want to be that player so bad. The
You don't really
bullpen
have to do
pitcher or
anything. You just
catcher
gotta
that's
run in.
running, but they run in so hard to get in on that one.
Well, but baseball brawls are so now. How many baseball brawls? They clear the benches. They all just stand there.
Yeah.
And, you know,
They hug and
Yeah,
stuff.
exactly.
like wow.
Yeah.
If you're gonna clear the benches, let's
Start
fight.
chucking them.
Yeah, exactly.
You
That's why I
nitty.
just love that run in because they run in so hard.
Yeah.
And then
they're
sit
just
there
having a
and do
great
nothing.
time because they're
Yeah.
not doing anything anyways that day.
It's so true.
Oh boy.
Highly recommend Bullpen Gospels by Dirk Hayhurst. He wrote it about 15 years ago, and it talks about stuff like that, like the code and you're so bored sitting out there in the bullpen, and you're just like, oh yeah, let's go fight.
Rip City Step says the league needs to disband the Texans. Just all around. Just because of that, we're disbanding this franchise. Don't tell Norman to combine that,
Norm's
Rip
already
City.
mad.
Portions of this hour of the EST Hangout, which is presented by Sentinel Storage, but portions of this hour brought to you by the High Product Marketing, official merch partner of Edmonton Sports Stock, promotional products that bring the buzz. Check them out, thehiveproductmarketing.com for any of your promotional needs. Matt Iwanyk, Tom Gazzola, Murray McCourt with you here. A reminder coming up 11:30. It will be the press conference where Mark Kilam will be introduced as I think it was the 25th head coach in the franchise history of the Double E. As him and Ed Hervey will speak to the media. I think it's just them two. I don't think Chris Morris is there. We will bring you the press conference live right here on Edmonton Sports Talk. Sorry, I just wanted to double check this. Mark Kilam and Ed Hervey, they'll speak to the media 11:30. So we'll bring you that press conference slowly. More, we're getting closer to learning about what the 2025 Elks will look like. I don't expect anything when it comes to assistant coaches until January. That's generally more so when they reveal the whole staff.
Yeah.
We'll probably hear OCDC, but the rest of the staff we won't hear. But I think the next order of business for Mr. 1 Ed Hervey is number 2.
Yeah,
Trey
Mr.
Ford.
Trey Ford.
Number 2,
You're seeing lots
Trey
of
Ford.
signings happen in the CFL right now, and Edmonton's pretty quiet, which kind of makes sense. Just getting their house in order, but it's going to start happening, and Trey's got to be right at the top of the list. For sure.
CFL released last week they released their free agency list, but they released the staff writers of CFL.ca released their top, 30 free agents.
Oh,
Number
I see
1,
that.
Trey Ford.
Number 1
They
free
put
agent.
Trey Ford as the number one free agent, which
agent.
surprised me. I don't know if I'd put him as the number 1 free agent going into this offseason.
I want to see their list.
But
Yeah.
there's some good names on there. And I will say, if the Saskatchewan Roughriders better be careful because they have some defenders that are free agents that I
So
think.
do we. We got a pretty good linebacker. Mr. Morgan
Yes.
we need to get signed.
But they've got they're a team that's ripe for a little bit of pickings if they're not careful, which I think they will be though. But Justin McInnes, Canadian receiver out of BC. You got Winton McInnes, linebacker out of Toronto, who I know Toronto's talked about that they do want to try to keep him. Terrell Ford, defensive back for Winnipeg. He's
Well,
one.
I would like to see him come to Edmonton and
Doesn't he
and
wanna-
play with his bro.
That would be cool.
That would be.
I
Super
think try
cool.
NFL.
He wants another crack, right?
Justin Hardy, receiver out of Ottawa. Trevor Harris, quarterback. Janarian Grant, that's a big returner there. Willie Jefferson is a free agent.
How old is he
Matthew
now, though?
Betts.
He's old.
Yeah, Jefferson's up there. I'll have to double check his. I think he's he's got to be 35 or something. Martez Ivy, offensive lineman for the Elks. Jameer Thurman.
This is the top
Darius
30 list you're
Pickett.
talking
Yeah,
about?
we're going Eugene Lewis. Javon Leake. There's your 15. First for top 15. I will get you how old Willie Jefferson is. He's still a beast though. If the Bombers had won the Grey Cup, he was MVP. 33. He'll be 34 next season.
yeah.
He'll be 34 next season. But
He's running out of time though.
I don't think he's bolting from Winnipeg.
No, probably.
I
not.
thought he was going to bolt last year. I think it was last year or was it 2 years ago? Because I thought he'd come back and play for his coach, Chris Jones. He loved Chris Jones.
the Bombers are hosting the Grey Cup. The Bombers are going to keep their guys in the house, and they're going to make a run. That's should be the team to beat. But
I think they're done.
you think they're done?
I think this year we saw
Well,
that they were ripe for pickings.
Ooh, with that
and
last
the
game,
problem was the BC Lions and the Saskatchewan Roughriders dropped the ball. BC started off very strong. Now, Vernon got hurt. But then they never figured it out. Saskatchewan went on this big losing streak. Saskatchewan almost won the West Division. It came down to, if it wasn't for the wind, There's a chance
That was crazy.
There's a chance the Saskatchewan Roughriders actually end up hosting the West Final instead. They did kind of turn it on, but I think it was we also saw that the rest of the West fell off, and now the Elks they're marching upwards. Saskatchewan's marching upwards. We'll see if Nathan Rourke could get back to 2019 or whatever.
Then
What was the last
BC's going
year?
to march
2021.
upwards,
Right?
Thank you. Yeah. That and Kolaris is older. Oh, that team is older.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying for sure.
So I'm
If Saskatchewan though is
another
the,
crushing
kind of
loss.
top of the heap, and like Edmonton can beat Saskatchewan. Edmonton. Well, I mean, we got to see what the roster's because when you got 30 free agents a team, you got to see how it all plays out year to year in a lot of ways. But man, Edmonton was just as good as Saskatchewan this year. I thought. I mean, what if?
one. Was it 1 and 2?
Yeah.
But the games were
they were
close.
close.
They were right there with them.
That 0-7 start, man. I know it was an improvement over 0-9, but yikes.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I'm not. I'm skeptical against Winnipeg. I think this might catch them a little bit, and it's open for this was the year where the other teams they started going there. And getting to the Grey Cup. How many straight years? That would be 6.
Yeah.
6.
And
That's
you,
5
you
this-
look
yeah.
at, I mean, there's staff too. If Buck Pierce goes to BC, then he's probably going to take a few guys from the coaching staff with him there. If one of their guys goes to, gets the Hamilton GM job, which is sounding like it's a good possibility, then, some players are going to follow both of those guys as well. So it could deplete their roster a little bit that way if guys would choose to go work with them instead of, try to win the home Grey Cup this year. Yeah. It just changes too much. I just hate the fact that there's 30 free agents a team.
Yeah, it's fun when the day happens, like free agency day, and you watch all these moving pieces. But it's hard for the casual fan. Like the diehards will know where players are. The casual fans want to fall in love with the players a little bit more.
Yes.
So that's where it's the CFL's got to find a way to still have the excitement of free agency day. Like we love when NHL trade deadline happens. We love NHL free agency day. We love when players move. But there's a limit to how many players move that you want. And you want to be able to sit there knowing that, like 75% of the Elks roster's back, not 50 or whatever. And it's okay, well, how are they going to replace the rest of it or something like that? So
2 seasons ago, it was like the Elks hit 100 players on their roster for the season. It was like, oh my goodness.
Yeah, turnstile.
Yeah, that was wild.
And that I defend, because I still will defend Chris Jones. I didn't like the reason he lost his job was he didn't handle the trade forward properly. But that's how bad things were left from Brock Sunderland. That there was just nothing here. And Chris Jones had to go try to find players. And it was just became a season-long training camp. And that first year, it needed, I still believe that needed to happen to a degree. Eventually, they found Kevin Brown, they found Dylan Mitchell, they found Christian Salisbury, who I believe his killer was convicted just over the last couple of weeks.
Oh, good.
I think the trial came to a conclusion. I think there was a conviction. I'd have to go double check that.
I'll look it up.
But he found some players as the season progressed and as the season ended that you look to roster from start to end. You're like, yeah, this is a better team. Yeah. And I don't think that would have happened if Chris Jones didn't have the revolving door.
Well, there's no question that they've got a lot. Like that running back room they had this year, like that was unbelievable. When you look at Kevin Brown being the 3rd or 4th best running back in the room, and he's a player.
Yeah, he's gone.
I know, 100% he's gone, but that's how good that running back room is.
Well, just even if the Elks signed Javon Leake, I think Rankin's the number 1 running back.
Yeah, like what a 1-2 punch that would be, though, with those two guys. And you saw it when you have both of those guys, you can keep them fresh. They can both do things a little differently, but get chunk yards. Like it was unbelievable what they were able to do with their running game, which also speaks to the offensive line too.
Do you know what I just thought of though?
Oh.
Well, if there's anyone that's going to solve the kick return games for the Elks, it'd have to be Mark Kilam.
Fair.
If Kilam can't do it, no one can.
Fair.
Like, no one's going to be able to solve this. If Mark Kilam coming up here can't get things figured out for the kick return game, done. Let's just just try to outlaw kick returns of the Canadian Football League because the Elks will never figure it out.
Do you think that he'll be the special teams coordinator and the head coach, or do you think maybe he'll bring a guy, if he had an assistant special teams coordinator, where he'd bring him up and make him the special teams coordinator, but he'd guide him.
It's funny because as I was talking about that, in my brain, I thought about, like, is he going to be special teams? I don't know. Like, I don't know what it's like on a coaching staff. I don't know how much more the special team, like how much more responsibility. Like, is it that much more, like less than an OC or DC?
Yeah.
And he's a first-time head coach. Like,
First
that's
time
going to be a lot on his plate, isn't it?
But is special teams that, like, is it a little different than OC and DC type thing?
I don't know.
I'd have to ask Jay about that a little bit. Because I like what you just said, though. What if you got an assistant special teams coordinator?
Make him the special teams coordinator.
I would hire an assistant.
Yeah, you could do that.
You could be the special teams coordinator, have an assistant that you could defer certain things to.
Good point.
You could still run the special teams because that is your strength.
Yeah. And sure, that assistant, or if you call him the coordinator, you call him an assistant, whatever you want to call him, he can run stuff in practice, and Kilam can go over and check on it. But I mean, Kilam's maybe setting up what the practice is going to look like and what they're going to work on, and that guy can oversee it while Kilam's doing his head coaching duties. And
Good point.
But he could do
some time
in the rooms and stuff, with the coaching
Video.
room and all that. He could figure those type of things out.
And he's done it for so many years. He's got it down pat. It's not like, I mean, he's going to have new players in. He's going to need to teach and things like that. But man,
but he was also damn good at it in Calgary.
Yeah.
It's built a very consistent special teams unit year after year after year.
Exactly. So I don't know. It's interesting. I'm very curious to see what the staff looks like.
On the Christian Salisbury thing, Mark McDaniel has been convicted of second-degree murder, and he faces up to 40 years in prison. He will be sentenced December 17th.
There you go.
Yeah.
So, doesn't bring him back.
No.
But at least justice is being done. Yeah. Man, he was a great running kick returner. There could be a brick wall in front of him. He would just think, I'm going to try to run through it. He just had his feet moving, and he didn't care, and he was good.
Yeah. He was only 25. Super sad.
What is it, December 2nd, and all this CFL talk today?
Good.
So exciting. So exciting. Once again, 11:30, the press conference, Mark Kilam and Ed Hervey as Mark Kilam, the new head coach of the Edmonton Elks. And I wonder if somebody will ask him about the special teams coordinator, if that will come up at all. This is the EST.
Oh, Wilkie's going to be there. Maybe he can ask it. Reed. Yeah.
For some reason, I thought Tom Wilkinson or something there.
No, he's at Legends.
This is the EST Hangout live on Edmonton Sports Talk. Your clear choice for Edmonton Sports. Matt Iwanyk, Tom Gazzola, McCourt with you. The EST Hangout presented by Sentinel Storage, Canada's storage experts. More than 2 decades of helping Canadians through life's transitions. Black Friday deal ending today. 75% off 12 weeks of 5x10 units. 50% off all other units. Check them out, sentinelstorage.ca. They are all over the place when you're driving around. You see the Sentinel Storage locations. There's one just down the road over here. On the way to Westmount from here. I can't remember what road that is. Is that 111 or something like that?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's one just down there.
Yeah.
They're just all over the place.
So I just got a text from a buddy of mine that worked with Mark Kilam in Calgary. And I'll get to a couple of parts. It talks about how impressive he is. He's a really great guy. I can see him being a guy that everyone will want to go to battle for. And talks about his passion, how much passion he has. And he says, it kills me to say this, but I wish success for him, which means I kind of going to be cheering for the Elks instead of the Stampeders. So anyways, I mean, so that's just piggybacking on what everyone else is saying. He's got the passion. He's a leader. That's what everyone talks about. He's a leader of men. And that's where I think, when you were referring to some other long-term coordinators that get head coaching jobs, if leaders are leaders, and it sounds like he is upper echelon in that front as being a quality leader, and man, that's the number one trait you need as a head coach.
If this works out and things don't turn around in Calgary, there's going to be a lot of angry Stampeders fans. There's going to be a lot of fans that are going to be pissed off if Dave Dickinson doesn't get things fixed down there, or if he eventually has to give up the head coaching role to keep GM or something, and Mark Kilam's having success up here in Edmonton, that is going to annoy a lot
Yeah.
of Calgary Stampeders fans because they weren't happy that he got fired.
And if he gets fired, so Dickinson can hire his brother as a special teams coordinator, and the special teams, isn't that successful.
Right.
I mean, even if he doesn't lose his job, I mean, just if they have and Craig Dickinson is an experienced coach and a good, well-known,
Yeah.
quality special teams coordinator, so he'd probably do a fine job, but.
There was a lot of Stampeders fans that would have loved if after this season Craig Dickinson resigned as head coach, stayed as GM, and they hired Mark Kilam as their head coach. That's what they wanted
They
to see.
put 20 years into him, and they let him come to Edmonton, and all the time and effort that they put into him with their organization for 20 years, we now get to see the rewards of the benefit from all of their development of him.
That's why it's going to be just fascinating to watch because if it works here in Calgary, doesn't keep going, that they are going to be so mad, and it will be so great.
And the Calgary Edmonton games now with Mark Kilam as the coach.
Perfect.
There's probably going to be a couple players that drive up the highway to free agents and play with us. Well,
They weren't that good.
well,
There's not a lot of players I'd want personally.
I'd trade kickers, that's for sure.
well.
They really
Not punter.
the
Jake Julian's
old
great.
management team now was there's new management. They really liked that kicker that they played in the last game of the season here in Edmonton.
They drafted him.
Yeah.
Didn't they? Blanchfield.
Something like
Blanchard?
that. And they really were high on him. Unless you are getting a Paredes or a Sean White.
They thought they were getting that though, because
With Beattie?
he was good in Toronto.
I'll
One
go.
good year.
We have his trading card in the other room, and just go look at his percent. Like the year before in Toronto, that was a career year, and it wasn't even. It was an anomaly.
But it was good.
It was, but every other year was like if you go through the list, it goes like I'll pull it up here because I don't need the card for it.
Okay.
Boris Beattie. Where is Boris Beattie? CFL. Here we go. What do we got for his career kicking? Okay, that's punting. Here's kicking. I will go and so 2015, his first year, he was 90%. So he kicked 40 kicks. Then he went to 52.4%.
Oh.
Then he was 82.9, 85, 88.6, 84.8, 78.2. Then had a 94.9 and then dropped to 78.1. This is a guy that is more historically been about an 80, if you probably go average, probably about 84, 85% kicker. If he did that this year, the Elks would have been happy.
Yeah, they would have been okay.
Because
with
for
that.
3 games.
Well,
If they won 2 more games, if they beat Ottawa and Montreal, just those 2 games we could point to where he missed kicks, they would have made the playoffs over BC.
Yeah.
if
2 games on Boris Beattie cost his team a playoff spot.
yeah, and the percentage is one thing, but it's making the kicks that matter.
Yes.
Is if you're blowing a team out and you miss 2 field goals in a blowout, it's not as important as in that close game kicking the last minute field goal, last play of the game to win. That's so important.
Even his kickoffs against Ottawa, the kickoff. Remember he took that 15-yard penalty, kicked it out of bounds? He effed up his kickoffs. Anyway.
Well,
There's also Boris Beattie was the because I hosted a Elks sponsor event before the season where each partner of the Elks, they drafted a player.
Yeah.
And they were connected to that player. Sentinel Storage, who's now on board with the Hangout, they had Boris Beattie. It was going to be really good for Sentinel. That was supposed to be a good one. And Boris Beattie let Sentinel down a little bit.
A secure choice.
They need to, that's on Beattie. Let down Sentinel Storage this past year a little bit.
and a few other
Agreed.
people, but
Pardon?
and a few other people.
Yes,
let down
yes.
too, but
So that's where, like, though, if you're, I'm okay spending a little less if they believe, if Ed Hervey goes and like, because he's not the same management. If he looks at this, I should pull up his name right away.
I mean, now
and
you
goes
got-
a younger guy that they believe in. Maybe this guy could turn into a long, 10-year career here in Edmonton. I don't have time. I have time to invest in that. But if you can get a Sean White, though, I'd go jump on that. In a
well,
heartbeat.
sure,
Or
but that's not going to happen.
I don't know if I can handle Paredes here.
But
I've always disliked him.
But he's so good.
I know. That's why I've always disliked him, I think.
so previous management might have been high on this this
and
kicker,
that's the
but now everything's
It's all
new.
up in
So it's a wide open slate.
When it comes to Paradise, I've never had him in my CFL Fantasy Football League. And whoever had him always did well. And I hated him because he'd go up against them. And this year I added him. And he was fine, actually. I won.
Yeah, he's good.
I won this year. But it wasn't like he wasn't as good as he's been in years past. So I finally take him, and he doesn't even, like, not the legend that he once was for me. He was consistent, but not outstanding. But I still won. So he's part of the Sacramento Gold Miners championship team. He's a champion this year.
Oh yeah, Sean White though. He's getting up there in age too, but he just keeps on going and going and going.
The only fear is you could also turn into Justin Tucker, who now can't make a damn kick.
Wow. Sorry about
The Ravens
that.
have 5 losses this year by a
didn't
combined
see.
22 points.
Ooh.
In those 5 games, Justin Tucker has missed 22 points worth of kicks or whatever it is. Now, that doesn't equate dead on.
Right,
with
situations.
Right. Yesterday, he cost them 7 points.
That's not good.
2 missed field goals and a missed extra point.
Didn't he get like a big ticket too in his last contract? Didn't they pay him
Probably.
big bucks?
It's
Yeah.
this year, he's just been... He was the best kicker ever in the history of the National Football League. I think he's starting to drop. I think he might be 2 right now or something. And it won't be far to dropping to number 3 or something. So he's got to figure it out. Because my Ravens are losing games because of the damn kicker.
And you can't have that. I can't believe you lost that game. I hate Philadelphia. Ugh. Yeah. I mean, they've won 6 or 7 in a row, so they're obviously a quality team, and so you lost to a quality team. But
Should have been the Ravens should have won.
Yeah,
Their kicker messed up.
happens.
Well, we'll see what the Elks do with their kicker. I just would find it hard to believe that BD's back a little bit.
I know he has another year left on his deal, and
so.
they paid him pretty good, I think. But
You could always cut.
Yeah.
And when Ed was talking to Jay and I, one thing that he says one of the things when he looks at a roster is he'll start at the top and look at salaries and what do you bring to the team.
Yeah.
And my mind went immediately to Boris Beatty.
Yeah.
Because I'm going, well, when you're going to look at a high ticket price and if he's 78% kicking, you might sit there and go, nope,
Yeah.
don't want that one.
want that
Whereas Jay went to Geno Lewis in his mind, wondering would Ed spend 300 on a receiver like Geno Lewis to
Geno
bring
has
Geno back?
a 10-game touchdown streak.
I know.
He's a different kind of receiver too than
Yeah.
a lot of the other guys.
But Ed could find receivers. Like at least when he was here in Edmonton, there was a lot of receivers he found. So does Ed sit there and go, I don't need to spend 3 on a receiver. I could go pay 2 for other receivers, and I'll go find some receivers. I'd like to see Geno back personally.
I like Geno. I think he's a good receiver. I talked to Nanso a bunch about Geno, and he's like, no, he's not coming back. I don't think he wants, or he doesn't think he's the right guy. And that's just Hernan's opinion, but we'll see. I think Geno fit in better than Kenny Lawler did, certainly.
From the outside looking in, I agree.
Yeah.
He was also like with Kenny Lawler. You also and we've seen it with him going back to Winnipeg. There's the risk of the injury. Geno, you don't have that generally. Like
He's a tank.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so it's. I don't think anyone pays him 300.
No.
Tim White hit the free agency. I think this was last free agency, like last year. He was wanting big money, and Hamilton, where Ed just came from, was like, no, we're not giving it to go get it somewhere else. And no one gave it to him.
Yeah.
And I think we saw the market drop a little bit since the Elks gave Kenny that money and then Eugene the money. Like you'll still get a hefty penny, Geno, but I don't think it's
$200,000,
3.
yeah.
Like, is it 250? Is it 275?
Sure.
I don't know if anyone's going to go 3 with him.
Yeah.
But if you could have, just to continue with this, if you could have a 1A and a 1B receiver in the CFL, it might not be Geno Lewis, who's got, this 10-game touchdown streak. You get the 1A for like 200 and you get the 1B for 125. It's pretty damn good. And all of a sudden you got a nice 1-2 punch instead of, one of the best receivers in the league. So I'd rather spread it out. Although the Elks are blessed with good
Yeah,
receivers.
they have a lot of good receivers. And then that guy that they took in the supplemental draft,
Mathis.
I mean, he better turn into something if they give up their basically first overall.
They don't have a first round
Yeah.
pick.
Yeah. So he better turn into something.
I could see Dylan Mitchell being gone. I think he's still signed. I have to go double check that.
Mayala, Gittins Jr., Mitchell, Cobb, Mathis. I feel like I'm forgetting. Tevin Jones. Like he had a nice run of games as well. Like there's 5.
I liked Tevin Jones.
Yeah.
Pretty good receiving core. Sounds like to me.
There's 6 guys right there.
Zach Cobbs,
Without
Forbes,
Gino.
Mablue, Jones, Lewis, Mayala, Moore. I always forget about Kyron Moore.
I forgot about Kyron Moore.
There's
as well.
your free agents for receivers for the Elks. But I could see like Dylan Mitchell. He hasn't really, since he got his contract, he hasn't done the same as what the Elks used to get from him and all that.
Yeah.
So that's where I just wondered, is that one that we'll see the press release saying Dylan Mitchell's been cut by this team?
Him and Kevin Brown kind of came in and made a statement at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
And then both kind of faded, unfortunately.
I guess the other thing, it depends on who your quarterbacking is.
Mm-hmm.
If your quarterback is Trey, who do you think he had the best chemistry with?
Was it Tevin Jones?
Tevin would be one. Geno Lewis would be one that I think I'd want somebody who my quarterback has some familiarity with. I wouldn't want to change too, blow a lot of things up. So that I think also plays into this just slightly. Is okay. Well, taking a look at the quarterbacking, who else? Does Jake Mayer come up here with Mark Kilam?
Yeah, I've had that thought in my mind as well, but I feel like the right type of quarterback for Jake Mayer still wants to be a number 1 quarterback in this league,
But he ain't getting it.
not here, not now, but but that's who he is. That's what he wants. I think you need a guy that can come in and manage games if Trey gets hurt, but not compete with him, but really compete with him, if you know what I'm saying. Because a guy that knows that he's going to be that good number 2 and not really striving to be a guy that's maybe just starting on the twilight of his career rather than still trying to become that number 1 guy.
That screams Jeremiah Mazzoli to me.
Yep.
Who though has the injury concern with him as well. That's the only risk.
If he's backup.
I love him as a backup.
So, and Ed has to have a relationship with him. He's been in Edmonton before too, Mazzoli, at
He
one
started
point.
his career here. Yeah.
I think Ed traded him.
Yeah. So I
think he was him and I got to go double check this. I don't want to say it wrong. Sorry. Because I think it actually comes back to is one of Ed's worst trades.
oh boy. But yeah, Mazzoli for sure. I'd be 100% on board with Mazzoli being the backup to Trey here.
It was good to see Mazzoli get. Remember, he had those 3 years straight of bad injuries because he was supposed to be the starter for the Red Blacks when they signed him, and or I can't remember if they traded for him. Anyway, when he ended up in Ottawa, he was supposed to be the guy that was supposed to bring them back to prominence, and then he had those really bad injuries. Remember that one guy? What's his name in Saskatchewan that's out of the league with the dirty hits? Got him.
Oh,
I can't remember his name. Rick would know, but
Sorry, who?
Who's the guy with the dirty hits in Saskatchewan? His own teammates. did.
Garrett Marino.
Marino, yeah. So he got Mazzoli the 1 year, and then Mazzoli comes back this year, and one of his first starts of the year in a long time, he gets that first win with the Red Blacks. That was a nice story, but if he has a couple more years left, as a backup, Kahari Jones did it here, and a few others. Jason Moss came back.
Yeah. I think this was Ed's trade. He traded Jeremiah Mazzoli, Simone Lawrence, and Greg Voigt for Nathan Kanya and the rights to Carson Rockhill.
Yeah, that was not a good trade.
That's 3 solid players for nothing. Ouch. Don't make that trade again, Ed. Holy.
That's the history though of Mazzoli and Ed here. It's so. But that was right as he took over.
That was 2013.
Yeah.
Because Mazzoli was the backup here for, I think, 3 years.
And no one saw coming what Mazzoli was going to turn into, I don't think.
Yeah.
So, but trading away Mazzoli.
But that was 3 good
Or
players.
Simone Lawrence, that one.
Simone Lawrence. Oh my gosh. He was good.
So that's what I find. But I think he'd be a great backup option.
Yeah.
I'd rather
I like
Mazzoli. He's my number 1 that I would want if Trey Ford's being signed here.
Yeah.
After that, I do like Jake Mayer as a backup though. I think he was his best with Bo Levi Mitchell when he was the backup.
Yeah.
He was very solid with that. I think there still might be a player there. I don't want Cody Fajardo.
Man, that's hilarious because last week you were talking about that Montreal quarterback, and if it's not Trey, that's who you want. And Montreal was making
Locked
sure
him
that
in.
they locked him in. They did what Edmonton needs to do with Trey Ford.
Yes, exactly. If I'm Cody Fajardo,
And what are you doing?
you want to know where I want to go if I'm Cody Fajardo? I don't know if I don't know if he has an ego or not, that whether this would allow him to do it. It also is a little bit to Jake Mayer. I'd maybe throw this one out there for a little bit of him. But if I'm Cody Fajardo, I want Winnipeg. I want to be the backup in Winnipeg.
That's the name I had. I was wondering if you're going to say Winnipeg because that's where I was going.
Go sit for a year a little bit.
Didn't he do that with Saskatchewan? Fajardo took over for
Yeah, I think he did.
Go Colaris.
Go there. Allow Colaris to have his final swan song year.
Yep.
And then take over that team.
Yep. Now, how old is Fajardo?
31?
Yeah, because he's not necessarily young anymore.
He's 32, so he'll be 33 next season.
Yeah, man.
And I'll correct myself. Mazzoli only 1 year with the Elks, or Eskimos, pardon me.
Zach Collaros is going to turn during next season 37. And it would be his final year. I think a lot of people think it'll be a final year. I think a lot of Bombers fans want to start the transition to the next quarterback. I think they want Trey as that guy, but hopefully that doesn't happen. But if you're Cody Fajardo and you're looking like you just went to Montreal, you won a Grey Cup, and within a year, because you got hurt,
Yeah.
if you don't get hurt, the Owls don't know what they have in Davis Alexander necessarily, or like none and all this. And now they just immediately, like after a year removed from winning a Grey Cup, you're gone. Like, see ya.
Yeah.
I don't mind. Or it's you go to Hamilton and you go, but I think they like Taylor Powell. But I think Winnipeg backup job is kind of a very intriguing job because it means you're in track to be the starter for 2026.
Who's their backup now, though?
It was Strevler.
That's not going to work.
And he had a bad injury this year. Took him
And
out
then they
of the
brought
season.
Jake Dolegala. And who was the guy that came into the Grey Cup game? I forgot who it was.
The short yardage guy.
Almost threw a pick in the end zone and it just wasn't good.
Can't remember.
That they were forced to play Zach Collaros with a
Cut hand.
messed up hand.
Yeah, couldn't even hang on to the ball. Well, yeah, that is an interesting
The QB
spot.
carousel in the CFL this offseason is going to be wild to pay attention to because it even goes to what is does Hamilton want Bo back?
I think they should.
Yeah.
But the coach benched Bo when he was having had good numbers.
He was leading the league.
Benched him for Taylor Powell, who then got hurt against Edmonton and immediately had to go back to Bo. And if you're Hamilton, you're looking long term. Do you want to commit to this older quarterback or do you want the next one?
Bo Brawls.
What happens to Trevor Harris in Saskatchewan? Do the Riders want Trevor Harris back? If they do and Trevor Harris wants to come back, how long are they thinking this is going to last, this marriage? Or what's their future plans? Like Winnipeg, Saskatchewan, and Hamilton are three teams that, you could have older quarterbacks, but have to start looking at when do they transition to the next quarterback.
Yeah, well, and that's what this whole quarterback carousel you're talking about. I mean, you look at the ages of these guys that we're talking about. They're 38-year-olds, 33-year-olds, 34-year-olds. I mean, the next wave of quarterbacks is BC's got theirs. I mean, we've got ours if we sign them.
Yeah.
Montreal just signed theirs. I mean, that next wave of quarterbacks that need to,
Replenish.
it needs to get replenished because those same guys have just been getting regurgitated and tossed around the league for a long period of time. Who did we have this year too? Why am I forgetting his name right now?
Which guy?
Our quarterback.
Oh, Jared Daggy.
No, the old guy that was our starter.
MBT.
MBT. McLeod Bethel
MBT.
Thompson.
Another older guy that's still hanging around.
You don't hear his name.
Yeah,
I think he's done.
He won't be around.
He made a
he will
cool
be.
$500,000 and
he could still play though as a backup. I think, but I think he'd be fine as a backup.
I don't think he wants backup.
Yeah, and if he doesn't, he doesn't. Yeah.
Because he was, he went to the UFL and then there was the retirement talk and he was just going to be done. And like it seems like I think he's starter or nothing type thing.
And Edmonton just went, here, let's give you one last big payday when we shouldn't.
yeah. Go with Dukes in Toronto.
You don't know. So why didn't they go to him? It worked. They went to Nick Arbuckle. They
He
won a
got
Grey Cup.
banged up in that last game against Edmonton, and it wasn't good.
But he was dressed.
I know.
And so I'm just curious why they went Nick Arbuckle and Cameron Dukes. I'm not close
Dinwiddie
enough to
played a
Arbuckles.
hunch. And it paid off in a big way.
Well, but Chad Kelly's still relatively young, isn't he?
Oh yeah, no, he's the quarterback.
Yeah.
29, I think.
They signed him to like a pretty hefty contract
Yeah.
and stuff. So I know there's a lot of people thinking like, would Trey, because of how Trey with pinball
Man,
came in?
he came down while Trey was doing the post game interview with us in the media area, and he's like knocking on the glass door, and I'm like, what the hell's pinball doing? And then he opens the door, he goes, I love you, and like Trey's like, hey, thanks. And I was like, oh, that's not good. That's not good.
It just doesn't make sense.
I was like, get out of here,
That's the only
pinball.
thing.
Edmonton needs him.
Yes, they do.
But he's just like, I love you. And he's got that big smile with the toothy grin. And I'm like, damn it, pinball, you are so likable. He's a good one.
The official drink of the EST Hangout. It is the Finnish long drink, legend in 1952. A drink unlike any other sparkling refreshment. Real liquor, longdrink.com/Canada is where you can go, enter your postal code, and find which liquor store nearest you has the long drink, which you can get in traditional or the traditional sugar-free. Reminder, Mark Kilam press conference, 11:30, coming up right here on Edmonton Sports Talk. We'll have after an abbreviated edition of the Lock Shop, and then the Oil Stream with Tommy and Dusty. Reed will join you guys.
Yes.
To see, he'll be at the press conference.
Yes.
With Mark Kilam. The NHL, they have just announced that Jeff Skinner has been fined $2,000 as supplementary discipline under NHL Rule 64, diving and embellishment.
I think
Jeff
he's a
Skinner.
repeat offender of that too.
$2,000 because he's for that. That'd be citation number 2.
Yep.
Because citation 1 gets you a warning. Citation 2 gets you the fine. 3 gets you $3,000. 4 is $4,000. 5 is $5,000. But then the coach gets $2,000.
Oh, boy.
And then if it happens 6, 7, 8 times, the player stays at $5,000, but the coach slowly moves up to $3,000, $4,000, $5,000. I'm assuming $5,000 is the most maximum allowed under the CBA. I'm guessing. He was issued a warning following an incident flagged during NHL hockey operations against Carolina on October 22nd. His second citation, which triggered the $2,000 fine, was at the 10:33 mark of the second period during the game against the Rangers. So it's taken them over a week
Wow.
to go, Jeff Skinner, you're a repeat offender.
Don't do that.
$2,000.
Thank you. Player assistant fund, I believe it goes to.
Do you recall the play at all? Like,
No.
No, I'm like, I don't recall this.
No. Whatever.
No.
Big Oiler news right there.
There's
Big
the
Oiler
biggest news
news.
from the weekend.
Yeah.
I don't
that was
think there's
amazing.
anything bigger.
Yeah.
And
That's
the
down the
$2,000
biggest.
for Jeff Skinner.
One last thing on football, because I know we probably want to talk a little hockey here, but Broncos linebacker Alex Singleton
Yeah.
has just tweeted, I never thought I would retweet the Elks, but here we are. Not a bigger move in the league. Congrats, Kilam. The West just got even more interesting.
Oh, I got the embellishment here.
Okay, good.
Let's see if we can.
I like how the
bring
league
this here.
put it out.
Where is he? I'm assuming the guy with the
Yeah,
puck.
the puck.
Oh, going down like that?
I don't think that was embellishment.
Well, you need to blow it up and see it a little closer.
Yeah, he fell down, but
Yeah,
Did the league put that video out?
yeah, the NHL. Yeah, see, it's very well
it's got
done.
the shield,
I
yeah.
just want to say, like, it's.
The font that they used looked very
This is the
Final
wrong
Cut
video.
Pro.
It was one
Default.
where it's just like it, like this. The lettering seems very like
That's like
it's Bush.
Blank,
it is
yeah.
Like
Bush.
it's anyone could do that.
That's the standard font that comes in Final Cut Pro.
Yeah,
and editing software.
Like they just went like Gary Bettman did this.
Yeah,
he threw up like
Gary, we need you to edit
so
some video.
They'll do a little bit of a closer angle or from like
Are you kidding me?
Yeah, he went down easy.
So?
It's just
They're
like,
saying
he got-
stop
he
doing
got
that.
warned. He
Stop
got
doing
warned.
that.
I don't think anyone would have noticed.
Yeah. Maybe,
And I don't know if he was.
Whatever.
Yeah.
Maybe he caught an edge. Like who?
That's what. Yeah.
He's like he's a figure skater.
If you go to NHL PR on Twitter, which is PR_NHL, they have the tweet which links to the press release, which has a spot where you can click to go see the
I just
embellishment
reposted it.
yourself.
I
If you
don't
wish.
think anyone's going to do that. It's like, who cares? It's $2,000 for Jeff Skinner.
He's made enough in his career.
Exactly.
$2,000
I think he can afford it.
He can do $2,000.
Yeah.
The Oilers with a nice little weekend.
Yeah,
Yeah. Absolutely.
very good game.
Things
yeah.
are getting a little easier for Tommy G on the post-game show?
You know what? I like the chaos when they lose, but it's good to see that they're stringing wins together here. That's their second 3-game winning streak of the season. Good to see depth scorers like Podkolzin getting in on the action 3 games in a row. Very nice. Kasperi Kapanen scoring his first. That's good.
He's looked good, hey?
Yeah, and he has to if he wants to stay in the NHL.
Sure,
so taking
absolutely.
advantage of his opportunity. Good signs. These are good signs. The defense, for the most part, better. And Skinner was really solid again against Colorado, and they made the right choices going Pickard than Skinner. We'll see Skinner tomorrow against Vegas.
Well, there's a lot of people that thought like it'd be a split, those 2 games.
Yeah, of course.
They go get 4 points.
Yeah,
Of course.
That's perfect. That's what
Right?
they're
Like
supposed to do.
that's better than I think you'd want. Maybe, Utah game not going as people would have liked. For the whole game, type of thing. But
Bad first period.
yeah, but they ended up getting the 4 points, and beating the Avs is a big one.
That's the one that gives
Absolutely.
them fits is the Avalanche. And Edmonton's played pretty good against Vegas. They've played decently in Vegas. They've walked away from Vegas with points. I think they're 6-5 in Vegas. I looked it up the other night just to double check. But Colorado's the team that's given the Oilers fits in recent years.
Colorado's goaltending, though, was absolute shambles in that trade they just made. Like,
Yes.
holy, a young up-and-coming potential goaltender of the future for an old guy just to give him a little stability right
Yeah.
now. I don't know. They're
Well, they gambled on Georgiev.
yeah, that was a gamble. It's
It was
paying
not a
off
good
very well.
gamble on Georgiev.
But it still just drives me nuts in this city where it's always the goalie's fault. Like every single game, you listen to your post-game show, yes, it's Stu, but even when the Oilers play their backup and they're raking over the coals about stops that you need the big stops here, you need to stop here or there. Well, you know what? They're playing NHL players that are damn good and shoot the puck awfully darn.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like goaltending, like you look at his stats lately, and Stewart is playing awfully darn well.
Yep.
Maybe even back in the conversation to sneak onto the Four Nations Cup roster.
Maybe.
Which is solidified.
But
I think they had it presented to the league yesterday.
Yeah.
anyway, it's just
December 4th?
4th, they announce it.
Yeah, is it at Wednesday?
Yeah, tomorrow I think is Sweden, Finland announces their teams, and then Canada, US.
USA. I don't know. It just drives me nuts how every game, win or lose, Oiler fans are like, oh, Skinner's got to go, and this guy sucks, and that guy sucks. Like, you know what? You don't win 82 games. No one goes 82-0. You win some, you lose some. You build yourself up so you're ready to go in the playoffs. Stuart Skinner just backstopped the team to Game 7 of a Stanley Cup final. Like, just back off. Just patience, relax.
The fan base always has a couple of guys in their sights that get the lumps. Stu has definitely been that guy because they can't give it to Darnell this year. Bouchard has fallen into the crosshairs, and deservedly so.
Deservedly so, yeah.
But like Murray, and I've said it time and time again, Dusty went on a rant as well this morning about the comments in regard to Stu Skinner when he looked after the Colorado goal the other night. The replies to the Oilers account was like, Skinner this, Skinner that. It's hard to win hockey games when you're only scoring 2 a night. And the Oilers, for the first 15 to 18 games, they had been shut out 3 times in that span. They got a garbage goal in garbage time against Columbus, of all teams, where they got absolutely destroyed. They lost, 6-0 in the season opener to Winnipeg. It's hard to win when you're giving up 3-4 because your defense is so bad.
Yeah.
And you're not scoring more than 2. And that's what was happening. But people were, Skinner this, Skinner that, Pickard's better, start Pickard. It's like, there were people at the start of this year that were like, they need to make an upgrade on Pickard. And it was like, where are you getting this? Like, he just solidified your goaltending last year because you had a guy in Jack Campbell who can't play right now and struggled mightily in a season and a little bit with the Oilers. Pickard bides his time, patient, goes to the minors, and then gets his opportunity, takes advantage, gives the Oilers a good 1-2 tandem, bails them out in the playoffs in the second round against Vancouver in a very good series. And people coming into this year are like, they need an improvement over Pickard. Not sold on Skinner. Skinner's in his third season. Third NHL season. Calder finalist, Game 7 of the Stanley Cup Final, All-Star.
All-Star, yeah.
Pretty good resume for a guy who's played 2 full NHL seasons.
But run him out of town.
And and his team's getting 1 to 2 goals a night in the first 15 games of the season, and people are putting the blame on him because he's letting in 3 or 4 because the defense is absolute dog crap. And Dusty, I'll give Dusty credit because he was very, very eloquent in how he described it. It's a minority of the fan base. It's a 5 to 10% vocal minority who don't get it, or they get too emotional and they go to social media, which is a terrible thing, it turns out, and they bitch and they complain and they whine, and then they text into our shows and other shows and Skinner this, Skinner that. And it's like, the smart ones don't say anything because they recognize that the season's 82 games long. They've seen what this goaltender has done in his early career, and they go, you know what? He'll figure it out. And guess what he's doing? Figuring it out.
He had a little bit of a slow start.
And they're scoring goals for him now.
Yeah, funny how that works.
But it's also like he hasn't been, he needs to be better this season. Like I was like,
listen.
He played himself off the Four Nations
He
Cup team.
absolutely
like
did.
That's big
So did
executives in
Hyman,
hockey.
so did Bouchard.
100%.
Absolutely.
No, Bouchard will be there.
I don't think so.
I think Bouchard
I
will
don't
be
think
there.
so.
I think you got these very smart executives from across hockey who are, running these teams that had looked at Stuart Skinner when he didn't play well enough this year, and he was a lock to have been one of the 3, and he played himself completely off of that, potentially. And that's where it's like the knocks on Stuart Skinner, which should never be get rid of him. They need to improve. They need to trade. They need to get, move on from him. That's too far. But I think there is some validity to some of the criticisms that did come to Stuart Skinner throughout the start of this year.
I'll give a little bit of credit to that.
Because in the end, there are teams that have, I still stand by, they have worse defensive cores than the Edmonton Oilers, and their goaltenders have a better save percentage than Stuart Skinner had.
Okay, on paper, but performing. How did the Oilers defense perform? How did the 5-man unit perform? And then people go, expected goals against.
But I know,
but
I'm going to take that aside.
That bullshit stat can go to hell.
I'm going to take that aside. He has one of the worst save percentages in hockey.
Yeah, he does. And so how's Aiden Hill's percentage? Not good. Not good.
Sure. And then I'm not defending Aiden Hill right now. I don't know where Aiden Hill comes into me right now with that one. But, I'm just saying that overall, he hasn't been, there is that criticism there because he hasn't also produced. And that at times, again, you never see him, or this season, you haven't seen him go and shut out that other team when the Oilers aren't playing well, where they could win a game 1-0. Through the first 20 games of the season, outside of 2 games, he gave up 3 or more. That's not all on the defense.
He gave them a chance to win most of those games, and
they're
they
not
couldn't
all
score
on the defense.
And then he caved.
So and then if he was good enough, because Aiden Hill's save percentage isn't good enough, Aiden Hill's still going to make Team Canada, and Stuart Skinner's not. So what are the Hockey Canada executives seeing differently between those 2 goalies?
One guy won a Stanley Cup. One guy went to Game 7.
I know, but I think they're seeing. So
guy.
I think that they're also seeing that Stuart Skinner wasn't as strong as he should have been this season, and they liked the game that better clearly of Aiden Hill. Otherwise, Stuart Skinner would still be in that conversation if Aiden Hill's in that conversation.
Stuart Skinner does make the team? I don't think he will, but what if?
I think then we'd all be stunned because I don't think we've seen any sort of reporting saying Stuart Skinner is going to be number 3. I think we've seen the reporting that Aiden Hill and Binnington will be the guys. But they're looking at who the number 3 is, and it's not Stuart Skinner necessarily.
That's fine.
Whereas in the summer, it was Stuart Skinner. And that's why the Hockey Canada executive seeing what from Stuart Skinner this year and take him off the list then. Because he hasn't been as good enough as he should be.
Well, but he goes.
And if it was on the defense, they would sit there and say, "Oh, well, the defense isn't as good because look, Aiden Hill's save percentage isn't as good, but we're going to bring Aiden Hill."
Here's where I have an issue of Stu through the first 25 games of the year, where people say he hasn't been as good as he should be. He was one of the only reasons why they were in some of those games early in the season. Yeah, he did let in 3+ because they were so bad in front of him. Don't get me wrong, he did have nights where he let in dog crap goals. He did. Absolutely. But most of those games that they lost earlier in the season, he was the reason why they had a chance going into the third period.
And your save percentage is still, it's not just a goalie stat. If
Right.
you have a tire fire going on in front of you and you get high danger chance after high danger chance, they're going to, some of them are going in the net.
But there are worse goalies out there that have a higher save percentage than him with just as bad or worse
There's
defense
not
than
very
Stuart
many
Skinner.
defenses in this league that are as bad as the Oilers, in my opinion.
Okay, but their goalies all have better save percentage than Stuart Skinner because he's at the bottom. That's my point there. Is that like he's not even. I'm sorry. Is Connor Hellebuck on this Oilers team going to be the lowest save percentage in the National Hockey League?
It would definitely be lower. I'll tell you that.
It wouldn't be where Stuart Skinner is. It'd be higher than that. And if Stuart Skinner is a
He's
legit
the
top
best
10 goalie in the league,
I don't know if he's the top 10 goalie in the league.
Okay, so but that's where like I think some of this argument. So I don't think it's like the fault of the Oilers earlier this year. Would I put Stuart Skinner at the top? Absolutely not. I actually wouldn't even put the defense at the top to start this season where the issue would have been offense. Because that was supposed to be the strength of the team and they weren't scoring goals.
They were at 2.2 goals per game.
I just also look at it and go that at times this is an MBT argument where it was never MBT's fault this year. He would play great. He would throw for 300 yards, but but they wouldn't win games. It was never his fault. Yeah. That sometimes when Stuart Skinner would let the goal, he would keep him in the games, but he'd let them in at the bad times. And I'm not saying they should get rid of him. I'm not saying they should trade for him. I'm not saying they should do anything with goaltending. It was just he needed to play better, and now I think he's playing better. But he didn't play well enough this year that he played himself off of the Four Nations Cup when he had one of the 3 spots locked in coming into this season.
Mm. So, I don't necessarily wouldn't call Stuart Skinner a top 10 goalie in the league, but let's again talk about, as Tommy said, this is his 3rd year in the league, and the Oilers management at the time signs Jack Campbell to be the starter for 5 years and signs Skinner to be the backup. So right now, I would say the way their plan would have been is now in year 3 that Stewart would have
been the guy. Yep.
Would maybe be the guy, or pushing him to be the guy or get more starts. So maybe it's 45 games to 38 games or whatever for Campbell over. So he's supposed to be the backup still, is what their plan was. And so he has elevated himself far beyond that to be an all-star, to be a Calder finalist, to make it a Game 7 guy. I mean, he has far, far, far exceeded anything that he should be by now. And he's still growing. He's in his 3rd year. Will he be a top 10 goalie in the league at some point? Maybe. But he is absolutely fine. There's nothing wrong with Stuart Skinner as the Edmonton Oilers goaltender. They still need to improve their defense because there is very few defenses in the league that are worse than the Oilers.
And as we came into this season, we knew that, and that's where the offense needs to score goals because the goal scoring was supposed to take them to the trade deadline where they can go improve the defense.
Well, and so when everyone was praising how awesome the Oilers did on July 1 and all their free agency moves, how do they all look now? Because Jeff Skinner's not living up to any expectations. Arvidsson's certainly not living up to any expectations. I mean, all these great moves that they made are all, failing. So where are we at? We're at Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl got to carry this hockey team or they don't win.
Swayman, 893 with a 309. Skinner, 887 with a 309. And then Binnington and Hill. Actually, and I should throw Montembeault in there just because we're looking at this right now. Montembeault, I was just looking at it here. He's got an 897 with a 312. So Hill and Binnington, our Canadian goalies are not great. Binnington with a 899 save percentage, 287 GAA. Aiden Hill, 894 save percentage, 285 GAA. So his GAA has actually come down since the Oilers faced the Golden Knights here a few weeks ago. Anyway, it's just Dusty summed it up nicely, and Murray was going down that path as well.
The point of Dusty's rant was that while Skinner hasn't been great, not every goal he allows is bad, which is a very valid take.
Yeah.
And that's, yeah.
Yeah.
He hasn't been great.
No, he hasn't been
great. But he hasn't been someone that you're not throwing the baby out with the bathwater.
He hasn't been.
I don't think there's should be any conversation as to Stuart Skinner not being the goalie of this team moving forward.
He certainly hasn't been below average, in my opinion, either.
No, absolutely.
Yeah, he's not a bottom 10 goaltender in the league.
No,
not even close.
No, but I would like to see because it's year 3. You'd like to see while the plan was he'd be the backup. in the end, he hasn't been. He's been the starter for now a couple of years. And you need to see that progression and you need to see that growth in this goalie to show that he is a Stanley Cup winning goalie.
He almost was.
And absolutely was.
Yeah.
And he's got to continue on that. And he's got to keep that growth going. And sometimes that means going to steal a hockey game for this team.
Almost did against Carolina.
Almost isn't done.
Yeah, well, he had
That's the difference.
Two guys blow the zone in the last 10 seconds.
But we've seen goalies, and we've seen it against the Oilers with goalies that aren't good goalies, that have stolen the games, that have gone out and
they don't get
finished them
goalied
off.
every night they lose.
No,
and
they
score
don't.
or shoot
They
40
don't. But there
shots
are
on
games
net.
where they have been goalied, and how many times could we say that the Oilers
I think that's a
literally
cheap
goalied
excuse.
the other team? When a backup goalie comes in and gives up one goal and with 30 saves,
Don't you besmirch Lucas Dostal like that?
how's that not being somewhat goalie? Like, but you don't hear us the Stuart Skinner necessarily. Like you didn't at the start go 30 saves, one goal allowed. The
did that the other night.
Defense was a tire for. I'm saying early in the season.
Oh, early in the season.
Defense tire
yeah.
fire. It wasn't good, but oh my God, look at these 5 amazing saves that Stuart Skinner made that kept the Oilers to win this hockey game 2-1 or 1-0, whatever it was. That's where I want to see him add that to his game.
I think some fans are chasing perfection.
Yeah. Well, sometimes I think he makes 3, 4, 5 great saves, but when you 3, 4, 5 great saves, when you have 8 or 10 5-alarm chances, a few of them are going to go in the net.
Yeah.
Joel's not happy with me.
Why?
Well, OMFG, you're exhausting with your hot takes. Well, Joel, sometimes you're exhausting with your takes in the nasty chat. I'll just throw that out there. Always
Are
with
you
the
clapping back?
Always with the full all caps and stuff. So
Joel, are you always, your voice must be like tired from yelling so much.
Well, too bad we couldn't have a phone-in show. She could call.
Well, we
call
could,
in and
but-
bark at you live. That'd be fun.
we don't really have I got to still figure that out for the other room. No, the Hangout,
By the way-
we've only had one video guest ever on the Hangout.
And it was the
Sakari,
founder of Long Drink.
Yes.
By the way,
I'm very scared to add more of it. I like this when we're in studio.
Well, I know. We're hanging out.
Benny Thompson found a great workaround the phone line, which has been crapping out a lot.
What was his?
You get the link in, and then you just play the link without the video. You
Oh,
take
yeah.
the audio. It worked great with Pagnotta last show.
I just need to come in on weekends. Was somebody trying to get in or something?
Yeah,
I
someone
was
was trying to
wondering
get
that
in.
too.
It's not hard to get into that door.
Did
But
they
I
lock us?
I was thinking
We got the locks.
that contest is over. I was thinking they were coming in with a phone or something for you to talk to somebody about winning a prize, but they're qualifying to win a prize. But no,
Chris is in the nasty chat. I've been seeing him in here. And
Chris was the winner of the big
Chris was
contest.
the winner.
Yeah,
Oh,
Chris was the big winner.
congratulations, Chris.
We've done some email exchanges on Friday. So over this week, I'll do a few more with Chris. We will fully get him set up and send him off to LA.
Yeah.
I guess that's what I'm looking for. Send him off to LA.
What are
Alright,
you trying to get at
I
here,
don't even
Matty?
know what I was trying to get at there.
Well, yeah, that'll be a fun trip for him.
Taking his wife.
Excellent.
That's a good choice.
That'll be it. Although we did talk about, I can't remember who it was, where it's like the other way about it, because it's very sports centric, and maybe wives at the time they're not sports centric, like they maybe not be big sports fans. You promise a trip another time, like hey, we'll
Like
go
the
on a trip,
trade-off?
like in January we'll go trip somewhere else, but I'm going to take Brad with me on this one. You won't enjoy it. We're going to the
Well-
basketball game. We're going to the NFL game. We're going to the NHL game. But like in a month, let's plan to go to Arizona or something.
Yeah.
Which did you guys see the Arizona Diamondback ticket thing?
Yeah, it's like $365 a ticket for the full season, but it's not It's not a season seat; it's a season pass.
Yeah, ball pass. Which that's what I found fascinating by that ball pass.
Like one
Diamondbacks.
game, you might be on the third baseline, lower deck, and then the Giants come to town, and all of a sudden you sit upper deck, left field. That's your seat. Sorry, you got to take it because you paid $3.65 for it.
That's what I paid when I went to college in San Diego. I went to a lot of Padres games.
Yep.
And that's what I paid to sit in the outfield, $3.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, it was pretty good. Good entertainment. I'm not a monster baseball fan, and like the one game I went to, they were playing the Cincinnati Reds, and I was a little late. The traffic was a little hectic, so I missed the top of the first inning. It was 6-0 Cincinnati when I got into the stadium halfway through the first inning.
Yeah.
It finished 6-0. That was the most.
You saw nothing.
I saw nothing. It was the most boring 2.5 hours of my entire life.
So the seat locations will be located in the upper level and will vary by the game.
There you go. But you're in for $3. They are kind of sticklers at that stadium if you try to move down. Yeah.
Well, for $3, they should be.
Well, for this one,
you
for
shouldn't
sure.
be on the third baseline, row 12 for $3. That would not.
You
be
do
right.
have a chance. I'm trying to there is a way. For most games, there is an option to purchase an upgraded seating location as well.
How much is that? Like $10?
It doesn't say.
That's still a great deal.
That's what I was thinking. If it's just $10 for that one game,
I'll take the
Yankees
upgrade.
come to town or something.
Yeah.
There's an upgrade. I'll go see them or something like that.
We went there. We did our boys golf trip down there. It's like 5-6 years ago, and it was my uncle had never been to a MLB game, and we're like, okay, let's take you to an MLB game. And I was looking at D-backs tickets, and it was whoever was in town, nothing spectacular. And I'm looking, I'm like, man, these are great prices. And then I find some, I'm like, why don't we get club seats? And my dad's like, what do you mean club seats? Those are super expensive. I'm like, $40 a ticket expensive? He's like, well, we have to do that. So it was awesome. We had a great time that night.
To Chris also, he was asking about the rosters for Four Nations. It is all on December 4th. In the
I thought it was the
afternoon,
first-
in the afternoon will be Sweden, Finland,
Oh,
at like
okay.
noon our time or something like that. And then later in the night, I think it's like 4:30 and 6 or something like that is Canada and the US. So it's just earlier in the day. So for like Oil Stream or something, you guys will be able to look at a few of the rosters.
Sweet.
And then the rest will come later in the day. Mark Kilam, he'll be introduced as the 25th head coach of the Edmonton Elks. That's coming up at about 11:30 during the Lock Shop. We'll bring that to you live right here on Edmonton Sports Talk. Want to get to Road Warriors, which is presented by AccuSteel Heavy Haul Trailers, custom manufacturing of heavy haul trailers for mining, oil and gas equipment, highway transportation, quality, innovation, integrity, trusted by the leaders in the heavy transport industry. Get on the road with peace of mind for your large loads. AccuSteel.ca. In the National Hockey League tonight, I know the game that is on Prime. It is Leafs Blackhawks. You'll be locked in for that one. Nice early game for you. What do you mean?
My kid has basketball tonight, so I gotta go be with my kid at basketball.
What time's basketball?
5
How long's basketball?
hour.
I don't know how easy it is. I'm sure you can go on Prime and start it from the beginning pretty quickly.
Well, maybe, but
That's 5:30 start.
is it 5:30 starting out? Okay, so
5:30
I
start.
might miss the first period then.
You can still watch the rest in bed by 8. You're good to go.
I know, that's perfect. I like it.
You've got it all. It's all set up for you tonight.
Did you
Murray.
say
know.
in bed by 8?
Yeah.
I go up and get ready for bed at 7.
My goodness.
I'm usually out by 8:30.
Wow.
Yeah. But I get up at between 4:30 and 5.
Yeah, I guess so.
I need my 8 hours of sleep, or try. But
I know Murray. He was very we were very lucky that when the Estes night came out, he stayed out for
I
it.
did stay out.
I was way past my bedtime. Way past my bedtime.
we
But I
had
don't
fun.
do that very often.
You also got the Devils in taking on the Rangers, the battle of the New York area teams, 2 of them. Utah Hockey Club in home to the Dallas Stars, and then you've got National Football League Monday nighter
Good game.
Browns in Denver to take on the Broncos. You could join
Snooze
Lieutenant Aaron
fest.
Central Casino Sports Bar and Lounge for that one, where every day is game day. I think I got eliminated in my fantasy football league as one of the top scoring teams. Had a bad week still this week, but I realized it was what I wanted. As I was going into the weekend, if I win, I'm in. If I lose, I'm out. I was thinking there. Actually, I had a pretty good team this year. I have some good keepers. But if I lose, I was thinking that Dusty has a really good team. I don't think I could win this year. But if I lose, I get one of the top 4 picks.
Oh, perfect.
I go into a draft lottery. I might even get the number 1 pick. So I was like, well, actually, it's probably better for me to get knocked out as opposed to not win at all, have a middle draft pick next year, and then I got to try to salvage. No, I get a top 4 pick right off the bat.
Yeah,
I'm
perfect.
like, no, I'm actually really okay with losing. And then when it was really tight to the end, I'm like, I took a lead at one point, in the project, and I was like, I don't know if I really want it. So I'm pretty fine today. I lost a player to the IR. Reed loves when people talk about their fantasy football teams. So
Actually?
no.
Yeah, I didn't think so.
I don't do fantasy football.
Don't.
People
bad
waste
at
too
it.
much time. I was a little disappointed. I was cheering for your boys yesterday against Minnesota.
They blew it.
They blew
They
it.
blew it.
Holy, that was
they had
disappointing.
a first and goal. Have to get the field goal. It took stupid penalties. what was it, like a minute left, and they let Minnie come back with a late drive and win it with a touchdown. Idiots.
So
Awful.
are the Kansas City Chiefs the worst one-loss football team in the history of the NFL, or are, like
They're one of the
are
luckiest, at least.
Yeah.
or are they is a team that is just really damn good and they find a way to win? Good teams find a way to win games that maybe I
good
don't know.
point.
I don't. It's just like I don't think they're that good. Like I think come playoffs, Bills should roll on them, but
They might.
they're the Kansas City Chiefs and they find ways to win. That's
Yeah.
what they do.
Yeah.
So come playoff time, is there a switch with them that they just turn on a switch and start playing better football? I know they're going to get a receiver back in a week or two here that'll be pretty helpful for them. But I don't know, like they just every week you think, how did they win that football game? Like they could be like 500.
It was a toe against the Ravens that would have went to overtime. Well, they would have went for 2. They might have actually still won it there. So there's that one. There's the Broncos game. There's Raiders this past weekend.
Probably keep going.
What else is in there with the Chiefs? They've had quite a bit of moments where it's just like, how is this continually happening?
Are they on cruise control?
That's what I'm just wondering.
like-
If they just do what they need to do to win and just buy their time. I'd like to think not, because it would be kind of fun to see, some different teams in there. But
I have my feeling is they're cruise control.
Yeah.
It's the Patriots of, regular season doesn't matter.
yeah, just win.
Once January comes, they could play their football and they'll
Turn
win.
it up.
They just need to go win their 3 football games and they'll be Super Bowl champs. And they're good enough to just skate through the regular season and get. And now it's like it's gone so well for them that they get a home playoff date likely.
So Bills got to go to KC to win. But how fun would a Bills Lions Super Bowl be? I think
That'd be
would
sweet.
Just be so fun. 2 new teams, big high powered offenses. I think that'd be a lot of fun.
So do you know what you're going to get? You're going to get like Chiefs Eagles again or something
No.
like that.
I know.
Like
Chiefs
that's
Eagles
how
like
it's going to
barf.
work. Like you want that type of matchup. You're sitting there going like the entertainment value for non-Bills and Lions fans would just be off the charts. The history of the Lions have never getting there.
Yes.
The Bills just being the perennial losers, the 4 straight losses,
Yes.
like, all of it around it would be great.
Yes.
But we'll get Chiefs Eagles or something like that.
That would be so terrible. But I'm not going to lie, though. I look forward to a Bills Chiefs matchup because Bills Chiefs the last 2 or 3, 4 years in the playoffs have been some of the most entertaining football games I've ever seen. Like it's just spectacular entertainment to watch. But so I look forward to that. But it's the Bills' turn. Bills, Lions, Super Bowl. Let's make it happen. I like it.
Thanks for showing up yesterday, 49ers. My goodness, they sucked.
Well, they're banged. Same as like my Cowboys. They're so banged up. They're not playing their real football. Like I quit watching my Cowboys because it's like watching the third exhibition game of the year when you're playing a bunch of 4 stringers.
Yeah.
And San Francisco's in the same boat. You can't win as beat up as those 2 teams are.
Fair enough.
It's not possible. It's just sacrificial season.
Oh, Jay adds Bengals PI on 4th and long to extend the drive. I forgot that one. And Big A Maple also saying, did we talk about the latest report saying the Blue Jays will be coming in with the highest bid for Soto? No, I didn't see that because it doesn't matter for the Toronto Blue Jays. I stand by. Do not get excited if you're a Blue Jays fan any way, shape, or form unless you see Juan Soto standing in Toronto with a Blue Jays jersey at an introductory press conference.
Was that Ohtani?
Do not get excited in any way. You could hear the report that they gave $300 million more than the next highest team. Don't care. If you're a Toronto Blue Jays fan, do not get your hopes up unless you see that press conference.
They are the red herring. They are if you need to negotiate and get more money, you use the Blue Jays. That's what they've become.
And maybe Soto will be different, but don't get your hopes up until you see the press conference where he's holding that jersey with whatever number he's going to have in Toronto. And you've got,
And that could be a spoof too. They could take it an extra step and do that with AI or something. Have him holding a jersey, just to screw with Toronto fans.
Look, I don't want good things for the Blue Jays as a Yankee fan, but I don't need to see Blue Jays fans hurt again like they were last year.
It is kind of funny. As someone who really doesn't care about the Blue Jays, the hype and the passion is fantastic, but the belief, and it's like, no. It's like when Montreal is used by the MLB to negotiate, and it's a tactic. Same thing. Players use the Blue Jays. They're like, I could go to Toronto for this much, drive their price up, and then go to the team they want and get the money they want.
He's going to be a Met. That's where it's going.
So since you love this NBA in-season tournament,
I hate it now. Well, I don't hate it now. My Lakers got knocked out.
well, where does
can't
it?
go
How
defend
can
it.
you see what teams made it? Because my team was tied for first in their division with one loss.
I use the ESPN app as my go-to sports app, and if I go to standings, there is a NBA Cup standings one.
Okay, yeah.
So
but where
the
does it
Celtics
say?
are second.
Second with the same record.
So what does Y mean? Y means clinched division. So they can't. So I'm assuming Atlanta beat Boston. So they have the tiebreaker.
Right,
I'm
but it's
assuming.
over.
So now-
but so did,
No, there should be one more game still to be played. So Boston could still be they have to be the best second place team, I believe, to make
they
the
only
semifinals.
have one loss, so they
But Detroit has no losses. Knicks have no losses, and they're the other two.
both have to play the team that's tied with
Yes.
them. Yeah,
So-
they're going to have a loss.
But then I don't know how the tiebreaker would work between the teams. Actually, that I could quickly look up here. NBA Cup 2024, I guess
if
it would
there's
be.
3 teams at 3-1 and only one of them make the playoffs and they didn't play each other, that's silly. They
So-
played no same teams.
Tiebreakers. Okay, it goes to head to, well, that doesn't work. Head-to-head record in the group stage, that doesn't matter. Point differential in the group stage. So it goes point differential.
When they didn't play the same team.
No, but overall point differential, I think, is the thing. So Pistons are plus 28, Knicks are plus 15, Celtics are plus 23. Let's say the Pistons lose, let's say the Knicks lose, and let's say the Celtics win. Naturally, based on that, the Celtics would have to be plus 24. Pistons would be minimum or maximum plus 27. Knicks would be plus 14. But it'll be point differential. You'll need the Celtics to win by a nice margin.
I think they're done, though. I think they played all their games.
Well, how many? 1, 2, 3. Oh, no, you're right then. Oh, okay. Yeah. I was looking because the other teams still have to play. So your point differential is plus 23. You need the Pistons to lose, or the Bucks, I guess, because either one of those teams to lose by a margin where the point differential allows your team to jump up.
Okay. In-season tournament. Silly. Ban it. Don't do it.
No Moss?
Hey, let's end it now. Let's have one champion ever. The LA
Los
Lakers.
Angeles Lakers.
Coming up next, it is a lock shop. Dusty Huss for about 30 minutes before we send things down to Commonwealth Stadium, where we'll bring you the introductory press conference where Mark Kilam will be introduced as the 25th head coach of the Double E Football Club history, but the head coach of the Edmonton Elks. We got Oil Stream with Tommy and Dusty. We've got the EST Afternoons with Hernan and Gager. We got the Reed Wilkins Show with Jay Milne. That's all coming up here on Edmonton Sports Talk, your clear choice for Edmonton sports. This was the EST Hangout, which is proudly presented now by Sentinel Storage, Canada's storage experts. Check them out, sentinelstorage.ca. On behalf of Tommy Murray, I'm Matt. Thanks for tuning in to the EST Hangout. Like I said, coming up next, it is the lock shop in just a few minutes. Don't go anywhere.
Let's go. There you go, right in front of the camera.
First-time guest, long-time listener, fan of the original draft commissioner.
Welcome to the EST Hangout presented by White Claw Hard Seltzer. The difference is clear. Matt Iwanyk, Tom Zola with here. Joining us today,